Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening. Once more, the cross projected his image. This time, instead of being surprised, she took the opportunity to admire his features. Compared to Sakura's drawings, the real Akira was far more captivating. After all, no drawing could capture his aura or the allure of his high-dimensional succubus heritage. Ayako found herself entranced by Akira's image, replaying it over and over in her mind. She wasn't someone who avoided romance, she simply had high standards and had been waiting for someone who could truly captivate her. And now, her heartstrings had been plucked hard. The combination of the danger she'd faced, the adrenaline rush, and the classic hero saves the damsel trope had worked its magic. But if he's this young? Ayako's mind wandered to a bold idea, though she quickly dismissed it. Thinking about dating someone like him? I'm being delusional. He's not from the same world as me. Ayako knew her limits and understood how ridiculous her thoughts were. She pushed the fantasy aside. However, just minutes later, the arrival of another person reignited her hopes. Ayako's rapid shift from infatuation to desire for romance was largely due to her obsessive replaying of Akira's image. The Holy Cross served multiple purposes. It ensured Akira's safety, helped the wearer escape fate, and acted as a convenient tool for winning affection. Using the cross required the wearer to think of Akira, and seeing his handsome face daily would naturally lead to growing affection. For Akira, this system only increased his favorability, never decreasing it. Combined with the joy of using the artifact and the sense of security it provided, it was almost inevitable that anyone who used it would eventually fall for him. A few minutes later, Ayako had resigned herself to the idea that while she was deeply attracted to Akira, a relationship was impossible. But then, another flash of fluorescent blue light appeared, and a confused girl materialized in front of her. This girl was hard to miss. She was riding a massive, heavily modified motorcycle. Huh? Fujimura Taiga looked around, bewildered. What had just happened? One moment, she'd been evading sea demons on her beloved bike. For some reason, the creatures seemed fixated on her, determined to kill her. Thankfully, her motorcycle's powerful modifications allowed her to maneuver quickly, even saving a few people along the way. But in a moment of recklessness, she'd gotten surrounded while trying to rescue a little girl. Just as she was considering ramming her way out, a blue light flashed, and she found herself here. Where even was this? Was it still Fuiuki City? Oh, and this thing. Taiga fiddled with the cross around her neck. She vaguely remembered the man saying something about using it in case of danger before leaving. What does he mean by use the cross? As soon as the thought crossed her mind, the cross glowed brightly. A few seconds later, Taiga's jaw dropped as an image of an incredibly handsome young man appeared in her mind. No way. The guy who saved me is a total hottie? Ayako studied the girl in front of her, feeling a strange sense of familiarity. Not just her appearance, but her voice too. Hello, may I ask who you are? Ayako finally asked. Me? Taiga pointed at herself, then at the brown-haired high schooler in front of her. You're Mitsuzuri Ayako? But how? You should only be a little kid right now. Ayako didn't recognize Taiga, but Taiga recognized her. After all, Ayako had transformed into her older self to escape, and her appearance matched her future version perfectly. A little kid? You know me? So, you also have memories from the future? Ayako frowned, still unable to place the girl. It's me. Taiga. Fujimura Taiga. Taiga tied her long, flaxen hair into a ponytail, making herself look more like her future, short-haired self. What? You're Fujimura-sensei? You were this beautiful when you were young? Ayako couldn't believe it. The Fujimura Taiga she knew in the future had short hair, rode an electric scooter, and lacked the youthful energy of the girl before her. Thud seemingly sensing Ayako's disrespectful thoughts, Taiga delivered a swift, justice-filled punch to Ayako's head. Ayako, are you saying I'm not beautiful in the future? Taiga's smile was deceptively sweet. And no, that's not what I meant. Ayako quickly backpedaled. Even though she was usually bold, She couldn't bring herself to stand up to Taiga. I was just wondering. Why are you here? Ayako quickly changed the subject. Why am I here? I'm trying to figure that out myself. I was riding my bike, trying to escape, and then I got surrounded. Next thing I know, I'm here. Wait, so you were being chased too? Ayako's lips pursed. Was that why Akira had brought them both here? As they talked, Taiga's motorcycle sat nearby, a testament to her wild escape. The two girls, now united by their shared experience, began to piece together the strange events that had brought them together. Chapter 82, The Responsibility of Procreating for the Tasaka Family. You're saying you're also being hunted? Fujimura Taiga noticed something unusual in the conversation. Yes, that's right. Before I was sent here, I was also being chased by those monsters that came out of nowhere. Mitsuzuri Ayako nodded. Why are they hunting us? What do we have in common? Mitsuzuri Ayako and Fujimura Taiga exchanged glances, scrutinizing each other. A few seconds later, they both spoke in unison. We've both awakened memories of the future. That's correct. That's the reason why Mitsuzuri-san and Fujimura-sensei are being hunted. A sweet voice chimed in from behind them. That voice. The familiar tone made both of them turn around simultaneously. Sakura. Sakura. Sakura, have you also gained memories of the future? Mitsuzuri Ayako examined the girl standing before her to Sakura. She wasn't sure if it was just her imagination, but Sakura's chest seemed more developed than before. Could it be that Sakura had somehow aged into her future self? The Sakura from high school definitely didn't have such a figure. Or was there some method to accelerate growth in just a few days? Mitsuzuri-san, it's not just me. My sister has also gained memories of the future, Sakura replied with a gentle smile. Tasaka-rin too? So many people have gained memories of the future. What's the common link here? Mitsuzuri Ayako sighed. The explanation is a bit complicated. But yes, we are being hunted by these invaders because of a shared connection, Sakura answered. Sakura, just give us the short version. Fujimura Taiga's expression grew more serious. She had thought the whole arranged fiancé thing her family had sprung on her was already absurd enough. But now, she was being dragged into something even more surreal. Alright, I understand. But Fujimura-sensei, Mitsuzuri-san, you'll need to prepare yourselves for a complete upheaval of your worldview. Sakura began to explain the information she knew. In truth, she had learned a lot when she formed a contract with Akira. However, back then, she was too young to fully grasp the significance of that knowledge. It wasn't until she grew older that Sakura began to understand what it meant to be connected to a high-dimensional demon. A few minutes later, after Sakura's explanation, Mitsuzuri Ayako and Fujimura Taiga gradually came to understand their predicament. So, our fates are now tied to the world itself. If we disappear, the world will gradually fall into ruin? Fujimura Taiga swallowed hard. Well, damn. This was intense. If that was the case, could she request national-level protection? Maybe even demand some supernatural experts to guard her personally. Like that white-armored knight from before? If he really looked like the one from the legends, she wouldn't mind getting to know him better. Of course, it would just be casual interaction. Even though Fujimura Taiga was only 15, she had memories of her 25-year-old self, making her far more mature than Mitsuzuri Ayako. She wasn't the type to fall head over heels for a handsome face. At most, she'd just want to get closer, that's all. Despite being threatened by world-ending enemies, she now had a handsome, powerful bodyguard protecting her. If she were harmed, the entire world would suffer as well. Wasn't this the kind of plot you'd find in a shoujo manga? Right now, Fujimura Taiga's inner teenager was thriving. Of course. Her demands weren't exactly what you'd call shoujo-like. A typical shoujo protagonist would just wait for the hero to save her, not actively make demands. Only someone as bold as Taiga would think of asking for such things. Sakura, I have an idea. Do you think it's feasible? Since we're the foundation of the world, wouldn't it be possible to? Fujimura Taiga tried to convey her thoughts to Sakura. And then, Sakura's smile turned a little strained. She had to admire Fujimura Taiga. Faced with such a dangerous situation, she wasn't panicking at all. In fact, she was even bold enough to make outrageous demands. Fujimura-sensei, you don't need to worry about that. The world is indeed in decline, but it's not that fragile. After all, no true world-ending enemy has made a move yet. The world will only slowly deteriorate. Besides, Akira-san has a way to help you escape this hunted state. Oh? There's a way to escape? What is it? Fujimura Taiga asked eagerly. All you need to do is spend the night with him. How about it? Simple, right? Sakura replied with a sweet smile. In Japan, the word, diku, could also imply something more intimate. Huh? No way, absolutely not. Fujimura Taiga might have been a fan of Akira's looks, but she wasn't about to throw herself at him, especially not while she was technically engaged. She just wanted a handsome, powerful bodyguard. If she couldn't get that, she wouldn't push for it. Why not? Sakura asked. Why? Because I already have a fiancé. Taiga's expression carried a hint of nostalgia. Even though he's never shown up in over a decade, I've heard he's quite the looker. A fiancé, huh? At this, Sakura's smile grew even brighter. Fujimura-sensei. Was your engagement arranged before you were even born? Yes. Was it during a time when your family was in crisis, and someone stepped in to save them? Yes. As part of the deal, did that person request a marriage alliance between the two families? Even going so far as to establish a blood contract? Yes. Wait, how do you know all this? Even someone as dense as Fujimura Taiga could sense that something was off. What if I told you, Fujimura-sensei, that your fiancé is Akira Nissan? Would you believe me? Fujimura Taiga touched her well-defined ABS, feeling a sudden pang of stomachache. This was too much to process. Sakura, are you joking? If I were joking, how would I know all these details? Fujimura Taiga looked up at the sky. All her thoughts condensed into a single word, damn. She never expected that she'd been sold off by her parents before she was even born. And the person she'd been sold to was none other than the Akira that Sakura kept talking about? What was this? A teacher and student fighting over the same man? No. Wait. It was more like a student and teacher fighting over the same man. After all, she'd been engaged first. She was the one who came first, and Sakura was the one who came later. Meanwhile, on Tasaka Rin's side. In truth, Tasaka Aoi, Mata Sakura, and Tasaka Tokiomi had all returned to the Innsburn castle together. However, for some reason, Rin didn't want to be around her sister or mother right now. Recalling what her mother, Tasaka Aoi, had told her, Rin couldn't help but feel furious. 2 hours ago, she had reunited with her mother under Sakura's guidance. The three of them went out to eat, shop together, and had a pleasant time. Until Tasaka Aoi brought up Rin's future. Rin was actually quite lost. She had already gained memories of the future, so she could skip many things, even her middle and high school education. So, her answer was, she wanted to return to the clock tower to continue her studies. Tasaka Aoi supported Rin's decision. However, at the end, Aoi made one additional request. Rin, your father passed away before he could pass on the magic crest to you. Fortunately, you've gained the crest from your future self, preserving the Tasaka family's legacy. Now, you have the responsibility to pass on the Tasaka family's magecraft and crest. Rin's response was, Mom, I will pass on the Tasaka family's legacy. But I don't have anyone I like right now. Let's talk about this later. Tasaka Aoi had been waiting for this response, so she immediately said, if you don't have someone you like, would you accept an arrangement from the family? Like how I. The phrase like how I did struck a chord with Rin, so she agreed to her mother's proposal. And then, she heard the name Akira from her mother's mouth. Huh? Mom, what are you thinking? Rin wasn't exactly dissatisfied with Akira. Her earlier harsh words towards him were just out of anger. After learning that Akira had disappeared because he was exiled by the world, her resentment towards him for abandoning Sakura had completely vanished. In fact, she could even understand the idea of having a child with Akira. If she could give birth to Akira's child, that child would undoubtedly have immense potential and could likely elevate the Tasaka family to new heights. However, understanding was one thing. Rin just couldn't accept it. Even if she were to have a child with Akira, they'd have to dissolve the contract between him and Sakura first. Otherwise, what kind of situation would that be? Her and her sister's master having a child together? Rin already knew about Akira's identity as a demon king, but she didn't particularly mind. Even if he was a demon king, as long as he had saved Sakura from that hellish pit, he was a good demon king in her eyes. Having a demon king's child wouldn't be so bad either. After all, the world was already in shambles. A child of a demon king wouldn't have to worry about safety or being manipulated by fate. But Rin could only accept the idea of having a child herself. She couldn't face the fact that the father would be Sakura's master and the object of her sister's affections. What kind of situation was this? She already felt guilty because her father had chosen her over Sakura. Now, if she were to compete with Sakura for a man and even have his child, wouldn't that mean she'd be burdened with guilt for the rest of her life? What made it even harder for Rin to accept was that when she voiced her concerns, Sakura told her not to worry about it. How could she not worry? Even if the person she felt guilty towards told her to let it go, she couldn't just drop it like that. This guilt came from within her, a chain she had forged herself. Rin's reaction was in line with human instinct. From ancient societies to modern times, the gene for mutual benefit has been deeply ingrained in human DNA. Mutual benefit is a natural evolutionary trait that ancient humans developed to ensure the survival of larger populations. People are kind to those around them in the hopes of receiving something in return in the future. In ancient times, you might be fine today, but injured tomorrow. In such cases, you'd need others to take care of you. And those who care for you won't do so without expecting something in return. They might be people you've helped before, or they might hope that you'll help them in the future. This mutual benefit exists not only among family but also among acquaintances. If everyone were selfish and refused to help others, the population of a tribe would quickly decline. Thus, through natural selection, the gene for mutual benefit was passed down, as it was more conducive to the survival of the species. By the time feudal societies emerged, this evolved into social etiquette. There's an old saying, a small favor creates gratitude, but a large favor breeds resentment. This is a concrete manifestation of the mutual benefit gene. A small favor is easier to repay, so the recipient feels comfortable and can strengthen relationships. A large favor is harder to repay, so the recipient may develop a sense of resentment to counteract the guilt of being unable to reciprocate. Thus, people who receive large favors might suddenly turn hostile if the benefactor stops helping them. This hostility cancels out their guilt, allowing them to feel that the previous generosity was only natural. Tasaka Rin was in such a state of guilt. But she wasn't the type to easily resent others, so her guilt continued to linger. Without atonement, the sense of sin weighed heavily on her heart. In the end, Rin parted ways with her mother and sister on bad terms. Then, after receiving a message from Akira, Sakura brought Tasaka Aoi and Tasaka Tokiomi to the Innsburn castle for safety. Rin's emotions were in turmoil, so she didn't stay with her mother and sister. Instead, she wandered the castle alone. And then, she encountered Saber. Saber looked at Rin's face, which was usually delicate and beautiful but now filled with conflict and pain, and her expression became slightly complicated. She had already ascended, so she could guess part of the reason. It was probably because of Akira, right? Saber thought of herself. If it wasn't Akira, she couldn't think of anyone else who could cause so much trouble. Chapter 83, Rin Tasaka's Redemption, the Crimson Dragon Emperor's Juggernaut Drive. Rin, what's wrong? Saber asked with concern. The last time Rin had been this upset was when she failed to save Tokiomi Tasaka. What could have happened this time? Saber, you're the only one I can rely on now. Rin clutched Saber's hand tightly, like a drowning person grasping at their last lifeline. If it were Saber, who had failed to save her own kingdom, who carried so much guilt in her heart, surely she would understand, right? Rin, did something happen? If sharing it with me would make you feel better, I'm more than willing to listen, Saber replied gently. Saber. Rin looked at her, slightly stunned. Was it just her imagination? Saber seemed more understanding than before. Sure, Saber had always been considerate and caring toward her, but this felt different somehow. Rin, what's wrong? Saber asked, tilting her head slightly. No, it's nothing. It's just something happened, Rin began, deciding not to press the matter further. Instead, she started to recount her troubles. A few minutes later, after finishing her story, Rin drank several glasses of water to soothe her throat. Her mood had improved slightly after venting. So, that's what happened. My mother has arranged a marriage for me. She wants me to bear a child who can inherit the Tasaka family. I don't mind having a child, but how can I possibly develop that kind of relationship with someone who is technically Sakura's master? What is my mother thinking? It's ridiculous. Rin, there's an obvious solution to this problem, Saber pointed out calmly. What solution? Simply become a devil servant, just like Sakura. That way, you and Sakura would be equals, and you wouldn't feel like you owe her anything. Wait. Huh? Rin tilted her head, her brain momentarily short-circuiting. At first glance, it made sense, but something about it felt off. Rin, if you do this, not only will you no longer feel indebted to Sakura, but you'll also be able to repay your past guilt. You've always treated Sakura well because you felt responsible for her being taken in by the Matu family. But no matter how kind you are to her, it never truly eases your conscience. Only an equal sacrifice will make you feel like you've truly made up for it. And now, with your mother's decision, the timing is perfect? Don't you think? Saber took a sip of tea, her expression calm and composed. That makes sense, but Rin hesitated. Would the Saber from before have been so direct? Something still felt strange. Also, Saber, wouldn't this be letting that man off too easily? Letting him off too easily? Saber chuckled softly. In her eyes, once this world had been carved out, there was no such thing as letting anyone off easily. This world would eventually belong to him, it was only a matter of time. Everything else was trivial. Rin, my suggestion is based on the assumption that you don't mind marrying him. After all, I feel the same way. I don't particularly care who I marry. But if you decide to find a partner on your own, you can simply ignore my advice. Really? You don't care either, Saber? Rin mused, stroking her chin. In that regard, Saber was just like her. As Rin pondered, a soft, familiar voice reached her ears. So, this is how you feel, big sister? Huh? Rin's body stiffened. She turned slowly, her movements rigid. Standing in the corner of the room was a girl with purple hair. Sakura? How long have you been there? I've been here since you said, Saber, you're the only one I can rely on, Sakura replied with a gentle smile. That means you've been here the whole time? Rin exclaimed. That's right. So, I heard everything you said, big sister. Sakura's smile was sweet, but Rin couldn't help feeling a chill run down her spine. Rin, don't misunderstand. Saber was just giving me advice. I'm not trying to take anything from you, Rin quickly explained. Take something? I don't feel like you're taking anything from me, big sister, Sakura said, tilting her head innocently. She then tossed a jewel to Rin. The jewel projected images of dimensional rifts appearing all over the world. Big sister, do you know what this is? Yes, it's a recent phenomenon of interdimensional invasions. But it seems the scale is far greater than I imagined, Rin replied honestly. That's right, big sister. The world is being invaded. The world is heading toward destruction. That's why I want you to become Akira's servant, just like me. That way, no matter what happens to the world, you'll be safe, and we can continue to live together. Big sister, I believe this would be a form of redemption for you. Your way of atoning. My redemption? Rin looked up at the sky. Indeed, in the face of the world's impending destruction, what was the point of worrying about such things? Wasn't the most important thing for a family to live happily together? Survival was humanity's most basic instinct. If I refused to become a devil's servant and let the world be destroyed, Sakura would probably carry that guilt for the rest of her life. This is a necessary sacrifice to avoid that future. In the end, faced with the world's crisis, Rin decided to stop overthinking and simply go with the flow. Meanwhile, Akira had been busy helping people escape danger and meeting with individuals he had previously influenced. For example, Claudia Hortensia, who had been saved from Kiriko Tomin's clutches thanks to Akira's intervention. And Karin, who had been born despite Akira's efforts to change her fate. Akira had to admit, the world's corrective force was strong. Even though Claudia had been saved, Kairi had simply found another wife, and Karin had been born regardless. Of course, Akira's interference wasn't entirely in vain. With a different mother, Karin hadn't inherited the same cursed spiritual medium, freeing her from a life of exorcisms. After traveling nearly the entire world, Akira finally arrived in the icy wilderness of Ireland. There, he gave the last of his blessed crosses to a young woman with short crimson hair and a beauty mark under her left eye. Her name was Bazit Frogam Kremitz, a maid from an ancient Irish family. Bazit had been sent to Fuiuki City by the Mages Association to participate in the Fifth Holy Grail War. During the war, she had summoned Kuchilane, only to be betrayed by Kiriko Tomin, who stole her command seals. Thanks to the world's consciousness gathering all its remaining energy to resist the system, Bazit had been granted her maximum potential. Both she and Kairi had gained Kuchilane's abilities. Since she was capable of defending herself, Akira had saved her for last. Bazit, hold out here for now. If things get too dangerous, use the cross I gave you, Akira said before spreading his wings. Understood. You're heading somewhere else, right? Bazit replied, bowing slightly in respect. That's right. It's time to deal with the source of all this, Akira said before vanishing into the sky. Akira, huh? He sounds young, Bazit muttered, gazing at the sky. As she thought about him, the cross in her hand began to glow. An image of a handsome young man appeared in her mind. Bazit blinked in surprise. Even someone as stoic as her was taken aback by Akira's looks. Ah, I should have asked for his contact information, she sighed. Then, she looked down at the cross in her hand. Wait. Could this be used to contact him? Bazit wondered. After a moment of thought, she glanced toward the horizon. Maybe I should head to Fuiuki City. The Holy Grail. It's a disaster waiting to happen. Meanwhile, Akira used his Leviathan abilities to travel to the edge of the world. As soon as he arrived, a mechanical dragon appeared beside him. It was Machina Drummond, who had followed Akira through their connection. Akira, I've completed the task you assigned me. I've set up barriers around every dimensional rift to prevent outsiders from entering. Right now, your marine devilman is inside the barriers, fighting off the invading creatures. But even with its endless hunger, Marine Devilman is struggling. The enemy's numbers are infinite. We need to find a way to stop the world from collapsing, or Marine Devilman won't last much longer. I know. That's why I'm here, Akira replied. So, you have a plan? Machina Drummond asked, impressed as always by Akira's resourcefulness. Of course I do. Akira nodded. At first, he hadn't had a clear solution, only the idea of using Machina Drummond's awakened power to hold the line. But after visiting countless dimensional rifts and saving so many people, he had figured it out. The solution was simple, he would use his innate abilities. As a being with the blood of the high-dimensional Leviathan, Akira possessed the power of chaos and dimensions. The chaos power came from Leviathan, while the dimensional power was a result of his existence as a high-dimensional being. Even if Akira had absorbed a different bloodline, he would have still awakened his dimensional abilities. The only question was whether he would have gained the power of chaos. While traveling through the dimensional rifts, Akira's instincts had kicked in, revealing the solution to him. All he needed to do was infuse the world with his dimensional energy. Just like how Ultraman Z used his Zestium beam to repair collapsing space, Akira could use his dimensional energy to fix the broken world. Boost. The Red Dragon Emperor's gauntlet appeared on Akira's arm, and a terrifying aura surrounded him. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. Forbidden move, Scale Male. As the Red Dragon Emperor's armor materialized, Akira's power surged to even greater heights. But it still wasn't enough. Even with the power of a high-class devil and his balance breaker, Akira hadn't reached the level of a super devil. To achieve that level of power, his base strength would need to be at least that of a Mao. However, both Akira and Machina Drummond knew that balance breaker was far from his limit. The green jewel on the gauntlet began to glow with an emerald light as Akira's power continued to rise. I awaken as the heavenly dragon who seizes the truth of supremacy. I laugh at the infinite, I cry for the dream. I shall become the Crimson Dragon Emperor and descend into the Crimson Purgatory. Juggernaut Drive. Chapter 84, The Divine Destruction Cannon. The inevitable death of the god of the Bible. Juggernaut Drive. The forbidden technique of fully unleashing the dragon soul. Every generation of hosts for the two heavenly dragons faces the pitfalls left by countless predecessors. The fate of the two heavenly dragons' hosts has often been grim, with most meeting their end due to the reckless use of Juggernaut Drive. Thus, the boosted gear and the divine dividing are filled with immense resentment. If a host of the two heavenly dragons is mediocre in talent, they are likely to be driven mad by this resentment, falling into a state of uncontrollable Juggernaut Drive, ultimately draining their life force and perishing. Only someone like Volley, with his mixed heritage of human and demon blood, can use magic to substitute for life force, allowing him to wield Juggernaut Drive so freely. But now, there is another who can use Juggernaut Drive without harm. Moreover, Akira can sustain Juggernaut Drive by expending either chaos energy or his physical stamina. In this state, even in a battle of Juggernaut Drives, Akira can outlast his opponents. Super Devil. In his Juggernaut Drive state, Akira can tap into a portion of the Red Dragon Emperor's power, stabilizing his overall strength at the level of a Super Devil. Only in this state can Akira withstand the world's collapse and repair the world. Whoosh! The wings of the Red Dragon Emperor spread wide, revealing 12 draconic wings, each adorned with several green jewels. Roar! A deafening dragon's roar echoed as the jewels on Akira's dragon form began to glow brightly. Boost! 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 As the green jewels flashed, Akira's chest began to gather dimensional energy. If this were the DxD world, Akira wouldn't dare to so blatantly use such high-level dimensional energy. But in the Fate world, he had no such reservations. Outside the world, Akira's body acted like a black hole, endlessly absorbing dimensional energy from the void and concentrating it in his chest. Due to less interference, the world was gradually collapsing, transforming into world fragments. As the world crumbled, these fragments were broken down into dimensional energy by dimensional creatures. Akira, however, sought to reverse this process. He aimed to absorb dimensional energy and use it to repair the world. Dimensional energy was infinite. Within the dimensional void, Akira's capacity to endure had increased significantly, allowing him to continuously gather dimensional energy. How is this possible? Agumon gulped. He had thought Akira was already incredibly strong, but within the dimensional void, Akira's power surpassed even that of the normal world. Under Agumon's watchful gaze, the energy in Akira's chest reached its limit. Ouroboros, Longinus Smasher, Chaos, Divine Destruction Cannon, boom. A pure beam of dimensional energy erupted from Akira. The Divine Destruction Cannon was a powerful attack that could only be used by the boosted gear in special modes. Normally, it could only be activated in Juggernaut Drive, Greater Red Fusion, or Dragon God mode. However, Greater Red Fusion required the power of the Red Dragon Emperor, and Dragon God mode needed the combined power of Athos and the Red Dragon Emperor. Before unlocking these stronger modes, using Juggernaut Drive to activate the Divine Destruction Cannon was the only solution. When Sai Hayao to use this attack in his semi-Juggernaut Drive state, he effortlessly annihilated the old Demon King, Shulba Beelzebub. But what Akira faced now was a world being devoured by the dimensional void. The color of the dimensional energy was unique, resembling a fusion of crystal and chaos, transparent yet shimmering with a kaleidoscope of colors that were occasionally swallowed by darkness. Under the influence of this uniquely colored cannon, the Fate World's collapse was halted. But this alone wasn't enough. Agumon, Akira called out. Understood, Akira. Agumon quickly snapped out of his shock and responded to Akira's call. Armor Revolution, Holy Armor Shield of Courage and Faith. Agumon transformed into a golden light that enveloped Akira. Soon, Akira held a large, intricately designed shield, and his aura grew even more formidable. Akira and Agumon combined their strength, pushing the rate of dimensional energy conversion to its limit. Finally, under the overwhelming force of the dimensional energy, the world's collapse began to reverse. The fragments of the world began to reform, and the dimensional rifts were steadily being sealed. And so, Akira and Agumon maintained the Divine Destruction Cannon for half an hour. After half an hour of continuous dimensional energy infusion, the world was restored to its original state, but even after repairing the world, Akira wasn't done yet. Agumon. Understood, Akira. Akira raised his hand, and the shield began to expand. 10 meters, 100 meters, 1,000 meters. 1,000,000 meters, 10,000,000 meters. The shield grew until it was large enough to cover the entire world. Agumon's holy armor had two modes. In its spear form, the spear that pierces the world, it possessed the power to destroy other worlds. In its shield form, the shield of courage and faith, it had the power to protect its own world. This was the very purpose for which Agumon had been created. 7 days, Akira. I can maintain this for 7 days at most. During these 7 days, our world will be safe from any external threats. Understood, Agumon. Akira nodded. Tonight, the Holy Grail War will end. Once the Holy Grail War concluded, Akira would obtain the item needed to fully restore Agumon's foundation. With his foundation restored, Agumon could maintain his form for even longer. As for Akira, he planned to use this time to gather enough fate energy to complete the world's conquest. Once the world was conquered, he could take this world with him. By the way, Agumon, can you leave 3 channels open? Huh? I can, but why? I want to give Marine Devilman a place to level up. On one hand, Marine Devilman can grow stronger. On the other hand, it will relieve some of your burden. True. It's better to divert that to block. If I can open some restrictions in uninhabited areas, my burden will lessen, and I can last longer, Agumon nodded. Then it's settled. As Marine Devilman grows stronger, you can open even more restrictions, further reducing your burden. Understood, Akira. If I'm going to open some dimensional rifts, I'll place them in these locations. Soon, Agumon sent Akira a list of uninhabited areas. Good. I'll wrap up the Holy Grail War and conquer this world as quickly as possible. With that, Akira's figure gradually faded, disappearing into the dimensional void. After sealing the channels that allowed the sea demons and dimensional creatures to invade, Akira returned to the Fate World to clean up the remaining invaders. 2 hours later, the massive sea demons invading the Fate World were completely eradicated. Marine Devilman, having absorbed countless sea demons tainted with outer god energy, had broken through to the super devil level, becoming a monstrous entity rivaling the original 4 great Satans. Return. Akira recalled Marine Devilman like a Pokemon and used his dimensional abilities to transport it to Agumon's coordinates. With Marine Devilman handling some of the sea demons and dimensional creatures, Agumon can hold out longer. Half an hour later, Akira sent away the last of the invading dimensional creatures. Dimensional creatures were more slippery than sea demons, so it took a bit longer to deal with the final one. After sending the last dimensional creature to his battery space, Akira heard the system's notification. Ding! Congratulations, host, on completing the villain check-in level, gold, check-in type, event check-in event, expelling foreign creatures, requirement, completely eliminate the invading outer god minions and dimensional creatures. Congratulations, host, on receiving the reward, Fate Concealer, a device that can hide the fate energy of a designated target. With this, you can deceive the world, alter predetermined destinies, and absorb the world's fate energy without being detected by the world's consciousness. If Akira had possessed the Fate Concealer earlier, he wouldn't have been expelled for absorbing Rin Tasaka's fate energy. If the god of the Bible had possessed the Fate Concealer, he wouldn't have met his inevitable death. The god of the Bible. An inevitable death. Hearing this unexpected revelation, Akira's expression turned slightly complicated. After traveling around the world, Akira returned to the Innsbruck castle. Originally, he had planned to meet with Ayako Mitsuzuri and Taiga Fujimura to boost their affection levels. But as soon as he returned, he was intercepted by a certain twin-tailed girl. "Hey! Akira! Demon King Akira!" Rin Tasaka called out to Akira as he returned. "Rin! You're looking for me?" Akira was slightly surprised and looked at Rin with a caring gaze. He noticed that Rin's emotions were unusually unstable, unlike her usual self. "Don't look at me like that. I'm not your daughter." Rin hated the way Akira looked at her, as if he were her father. She may have lost her father, but she wasn't like Sakura, who had came to see Akira as her dad. Sakura saw Akira as her father because he had saved her. But Akira hadn't saved Rin, so why should she see him as a father? "Rin. Is this the etiquette your mother taught you? To be respectful to your elders?" Akira smiled, continuing to speak in a fatherly tone. "Shut up." Rin flicked her twin tails in frustration. "I told you. You're not my father. I won't treat you like an elder." As she spoke, Rin closed the distance between them, bringing their faces within inches of each other. "Demon King Akira, I want to make a deal with you." "What kind of deal?" Akira looked into Rin's beautiful blue eyes. At this distance, one would expect either a kiss or a fight. But Rin was different. She had closed the distance for another reason. Thump. 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 Feeling her heart race, Rin took a deep breath to steady herself. "Sakura has made a contract with you, right? Release Sakura from that contract and set her free. In exchange, I will make a contract with you. I've heard about our special nature. If Sakura can make a contract with you, then so can I." This was Rin's way of atoning. She wanted to go a step further than Sakura's suggestion. Rather than sharing ownership with Sakura as demons, Rin wanted to free Sakura and bear the burden herself. Akira, feeling Rin's warm breath, gently placed a finger on her forehead. "Sorry, but I don't offer refunds. Besides, I believe that once you understand the current situation, you'll willingly make a contract with me." "Huh? What do you mean? What do you mean by once I understand the current situation?" "Just this." Whoosh! A golden light emanated from Akira's hand. In an instant, Akira transmitted the recent events directly into Rin's mind. This is... Rin's worldview was completely shattered as she processed the information. While Rin was digesting the information, Akira received a message from Sakura. "Akira, my sister has been troubled lately. So, I gave her some psychological counseling. Now, it seems she's decided to atone by making a contract with you." "Psychological counseling, huh?" Akira raised an eyebrow. Sakura's counseling seemed more like psychological manipulation. But since the outcome benefited him, Akira wasn't about to tell Rin, "She's manipulating you." Chapter 85, Devil Muscles Rin vs. Lady Crane. As expected of Sakura, Akira praised Sakura's initiative. He had only asked Sakura to contact Mitsuzuri Ayako and Fujimura Taiga. He never instructed her to handle Tasaka Rin's situation. It seems Sakura has forgiven Tasaka Rin. The reason Akira had kept Rin at arm's length was out of consideration for Sakura's feelings. If he were too proactive with Rin, Sakura might feel neglected. So, until Sakura fully moved on, Akira had avoided direct contact with Rin. However, now, it seemed that rule could be discarded. Since Sakura was willing to take the initiative, it meant she had forgiven Rin. "Akira-san, I'm just fulfilling the promise we made long ago," Sakura's gentle voice continued. "I think a household with only you and mother isn't enough. We can't exclude sister, since sister has carried this guilt for so many years and is willing to atone, then as her younger sister, it's my responsibility to forgive her. Besides, letting sister perish with the world would be too cruel for her. As for what sister owes me, I'll take my time to tease her back in the endless years to come." At the end, Sakura revealed a hint of her little devil nature. But compared to the deep-seated psychological issue of forgiving Rin, a bit of harmless mischief was perfectly normal. Meanwhile, while Akira and Sakura were communicating, Rin had finished processing the information in her mind. Rin looked at Akira, her blue eyes filled with astonishment. She finally understood what Akira had just done. She had thought Akira was just out saving people. But she never expected that Akira had also performed the heroic feat of saving the world in a dimensional rift. If it weren't for him, there would likely be far more invasive creatures in the world right now. "Demon King Akira. You." Although Rin addressed Akira as the Demon King, her feelings and tone were different. She felt an unprecedented sense of security. It was the kind of feeling one gets from a father's care. Rin missed that feeling. However, she quickly snapped out of it, pushing those emotions to the back of her mind. "That's right. I was protecting my assets," Akira replied calmly. If this dying world hadn't been carved out by the system and destined to become his property, he wouldn't have bothered. Let the taller ones deal with the collapsing sky. If things got too bad, he could always leave. After all, he had the ability to traverse dimensions. Your assets, huh? Rin smiled dryly. Well, demons are extremely self-interested. But this could also be interpreted another way. Once something became a demon's interest, it would receive the demon's protection. She and this world had just experienced that firsthand. After understanding this, Rin fully prepared herself. She made her resolve. Alright, Demon King Akira, I'm willing to form a contract with you. You don't even need to dissolve your contract with Sakura. Even if it's just to accompany Sakura. Even if it's just to make you think I, and this world, are valuable. I'm willing to form a contract with you. When faced with crisis, humans always make choices that best ensure the survival of their species. In Akira's previous life, there was a pair of siblings who, during a volcanic eruption, decided that since they were going to die anyway, they might as well enjoy themselves one last time. However, whether it was fortunate or unfortunate, after they were done, they realized they hadn't died. In the Innsbruck castle. Inside the room assigned to Rin. On the table were several types of medication. Clomiphene citrate, Clomid, letrozole, and so on. These medications all had one common effect. Promoting ovulation and aiding conception. Let's do this. Rin steeled herself and took the standard dosage of each medication. It was do or die. Even if something went wrong, that bone-crushing demon wouldn't let her come to any real harm. With this in mind, Rin took several fertility drugs in one go. Rin wasn't the type to carry such medications with her. Her ability to be this reckless was thanks to someone else, Tasaka Aoi. Rin had a habit. She always liked to be fully prepared. So, before undertaking the task of continuing the Tasaka bloodline, Rin had already considered using medication to aid conception. However, aside from being overly prepared, Rin had another bad habit. She always managed to mess things up at the last moment. Just earlier, Rin had messed up again. Before coming to the Innsbruck castle, Rin had been persuaded by Aoi to visit a pharmacy and purchase specialized fertility drugs. For more exciting novels, visit Philo-Fiction. At the time, Aoi hadn't yet told Rin that she hoped the father of Rin's child would be Akira. Later, after a long conversation and argument with Aoi, Rin had forgotten about the fertility drugs. It wasn't until just now that Rin remembered she had bought them. Well, now she could kill two birds with one stone, fulfill her mother's expectations and atone to her sister. The guilt towards Sakura and the duty to continue the Tasaka lineage had always weighed heavily on Rin's mind, her greatest burdens. Now, an opportunity had presented itself to solve both problems at once, and she wasn't about to let it slip away. But she messed up again. After searching for a while, Rin couldn't find the drugs she had bought earlier. Finally, someone stepped in to help. Aoi provided several fertility drugs, leaving Rin stunned. By the way, why would mother carry so many fertility drugs with her? Probably to regulate hormones and avoid irregular periods. Rin could only think of the best possible explanation. There was no way they were actually for conception, right? Right. That must be it. Mother knew about her forgetful nature and how she always managed to mess things up, so she had bought extra while they were shopping. Rin quickly came up with a reasonable explanation for Aoi's actions. 2 hours later. After taking a bath, Rin finally chose her favorite outfit. If possible, she wanted to add a bit of ceremony to the occasion. Rin didn't wear anything special, just her usual red sweater, black thigh-high stockings, and her signature twin tails. Feeling her slightly elevated body temperature and smoother skin, Rin confirmed that the drugs had taken effect. After taking several deep breaths, Rin mustered her courage and opened the door to Akira's room. And then she saw a golden-haired beauty in a blue and white aristocratic dress. Luvia. What are you doing here? Rin couldn't help but shout at Luvia, who was elegantly crossing her white-stockinged legs. Era? Isn't this Rin? What's wrong? You look like a loser. How amusing. Luvia's golden curls were adorned with pale blue ribbons, cascading down her shoulders and blending with the hem of her luxurious blue lace dress, which draped over Akira's lap. Luvia seemed to think this wasn't intimidating enough, so she even pulled out a white folding fan and slowly opened it in front of Rin. With the fan unfolded, Luvia perfectly embodied the image of a noble lady if you ignored the fact that she was sitting on a man's lap. Don't tell me. While I was preparing, you were. Rin took a step back. She had considered the possibility that Sakura might come to help her, but she never expected Luvia to show up out of nowhere. In a way, Rin's guess wasn't entirely wrong. Luvia had indeed come to Akira's room at this time because of Sakura. Originally, Luvia had been persuaded by Ilya to treat a dead horse as if it were alive and drag Rin into the same situation as herself. But before the plan she and Ilya had devised could be put into action, Sakura told her that Rin is about to cook the rice. So, without much thought, Luvia took the initiative to approach Akira. Unlike Rin, Luvia had already been turned into Akira's servant, so she didn't have much of a choice. It was only a matter of time. So, rather than waiting aimlessly, Luvia decided to win against Rin one more time. As for Akira, he wasn't the type to refuse what was offered to him. In fact, he quite enjoyed watching these two rivals bicker in front of him. 2 hours ago, just as Rin was preparing, Luvia had already cooked the rice. Ding! Detected ongoing plunder of fate. I succubus bloodline activated. Fate plunder target Luvia, Luvajlita Idelfelt. Ding! Fate plunder successful. Host level increased by 5. Current level, 201, low-tier Demon King. As Akira's power grew, the fate of anime heroines had less of an effect on him. Of course, the benefits he received were still proportional to their fate and his own strength, though the level increases weren't as significant as before. After all, Akira had already ascended from a high-tier demon to a Demon King. Luvia. You did this on purpose. Even someone as dense as Rin could tell Luvia had planned this. What kind of coincidence was this? Even if it had been Sakura with Akira, she could have accepted it, but... Rin, you only realized this now. Luvia opened her fan, laughing gleefully. Why did it have to be you, Luvia? What she wanted to see was Rin's expression, this jealous, envious expression. Overcome with joy, Luvia's eyes rolled back, drool dripped from her mouth, and she lost the strength to hold her fan, only managing to flash a triumphant I won smile. Akira. You agreed to Luvia on purpose, didn't you? Rin expressed her dissatisfaction with Akira. However, knowing Akira's nature as a Demon King, she didn't press the issue. If a Demon King didn't act like this, he wouldn't be a Demon King. What she was really angry about was Luvia. This scheming woman ruined my plans. She must be punished. Rin's body lit up with the glow of her magic circuits. Just like in the clock tower, she was going to settle things with Luvia. Rin. Don't even think about it. Luvia's body also lit up with her magic circuits, her well-trained muscles tightening as she resisted Rin's assault. The sight of Luvia's magic circuits activated gave Akira an unprecedented thrill, further confirming the correctness of his actions. Ugh. Due to Akira's changes, Luvia's eyes rolled back, and her resistance weakened. Now's my chance. Rin seized the opportunity and reached for Luvia's hair. Grabbing hair was the most effective move in a catfight. Normally, she wouldn't resort to such tactics, she had some dignity. But this time, Luvia had forced her hand. You think I'll let you in? Luvia, being a woman herself, knew a woman's greatest weakness. She quickly turned to avoid Rin's grasp. However, due to her current state, Luvia's turn was clumsy, and she collapsed from the force of the spin. Humphrey. Luvia. You're too arrogant. Rin walked up to Luvia and kicked her a few times. After confirming that Luvia was truly unconscious, Rin reached out to push her aside. She planned to tie Luvia to the bed. Humphrey. Think you can mess with me? Rin would make sure Luvia paid for this. However, the moment Rin grabbed Luvia's hand, Luvia grabbed hers in return. Rin. You fell for it. Luvia smirked slyly. She had indeed passed out earlier from overexertion. But she had only been out for a few seconds. By the time Rin started kicking her, Luvia had already regained consciousness. She had been waiting for this exact moment. And so, on Akira's lap, the legendary devil muscles Rin and Lady Crane began their struggle. Akira recalled a famous quote from his master, I love watching women fight. Wasn't this exactly why he had agreed to Luvia's advances? Unfortunately, the catfight didn't last long. Although Luvia could have held out longer, Rin started cheating. Aside from her own power from 10 years in the future, Rin also had Saber's strength. With this advantage, Rin quickly turned the tables on Luvia. Humphrey. Luvia smiled wryly. If Rin was going to cheat, then she'd have to regain the upper hand another way. Luvia weakly turned her body, her delicate toes curling as she trembled and spoke. Demon King Sama, if you were to rate my service, what score would you give me? I believe you wouldn't lie about something like this, right? 95 points? Akira answered honestly. He had to admit, Luvia's struggle with Rin on his lap had given him a uniquely thrilling experience. 95 points? It seems I still have room for improvement. Rin. I wonder, how many points will you get? With the last of her strength, Luvia uttered these words before finally passing out. Chapter 86, Saber, have you betrayed me too? The method to conquer the world. Rin Tasaki puffed her cheeks as she glared at the unconscious young girl, Luvajlita. She had to admit that Luvajlita's words had struck a nerve. She never expected that Luvajlita wasn't trying to outdo her in a battle of strength but rather in feminine charm. Well, it made sense. Now that Rin had Saber's power on future pieces at her disposal, Luvajlita, with only one piece, stood no chance against her. So, Luvajlita had chosen this roundabout method to defeat her. Watching Akira play with Luvajlita's delicate, silk-clad feet, Rin couldn't help but feel irritated. She pushed Luvagilita aside and took her place. Humphrey. Rin let out a light snort, looking down at Akira with a haughty expression. Even though your personality is terrible, you're not a bad choice for a first experience. If you ever mistreat Sakura, I'll bite you to death. Rin's threat was more cute than intimidating. Rin, you're so tsundear right now, and it's adorable. But if I had to give you a score, it'd only be 80 points, Akira replied with a smile. Me? I was just stating my opinion. Who asked you to score me? Rin's face turned red with frustration upon hearing the 80-point score. Then, should I give you a score after we're done? Akira chuckled softly. He wasn't about to let go of the opening Luvagilita had created. Fine. If my score is higher than hers, tell me. Otherwise, don't bother telling me at all. Rin was the type to stubbornly refuse to admit defeat, even if she had truly lost. She didn't want Akira to verbally confirm her loss because Luvagilita would never let her live it down. Soon, Rin's well-toned, plump thighs drew a sigh of admiration from Akira. As expected, legs like these are worth playing with for years. Rin wanted to retort, but considering this was Akira's way of acknowledging her charm, she held back. Instead, she extended her black-stockinged foot toward Akira. Rin, did you know? Akira asked, looking into Rin's blue eyes with a serious expression. Know what? Rin bit her lip softly, replying in a whisper. Rin, do you know that legs and feet are two different things? Many people consider a love for legs and a love for feet as the same fetish, but they're actually quite different. Legs generally refer to the thighs, possibly including the calves, while feet refer to everything below the calves. So, you're saying I messed up? Rin's face flushed with embarrassment. She had mustered the courage to extend her foot, only for Akira to respond like this. No, Rin. What I mean is, I like both your legs and your feet, Humphrey. You're just full of sweet talk. Akira's expression turned sincere. Do you really think I've said this to many people? Rin averted her gaze, trying to hide her embarrassment. Rin. Do you really think I've said this to many people? Akira's eyes were filled with sincerity. A demon showing such sincere eyes made Rin's heart race, but she instinctively refused to accept it. I just think you're a pervert. As Rin spoke, she clung tightly to Akira. Being a pervert wasn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, Akira might be one of the more normal demons out there. Feeling Akira's movements, Rin couldn't help but think. Ding. Detected energy absorption. High-dimensional succubus bloodline activated. Energy absorption target, Rin Tasaka. Ding. Energy absorption successful. Host level increased by 8 levels. Current level, 209. Low-tier demon king. Outside the castle, Saber was reading a book. Books are the stepping stones of human progress. Modern humanities and philosophy have developed into something entirely different from ancient times. So, on Akira's suggestion, Saber was delving into some books on humanities and philosophy. Having left the timeless realm of the Throne of Heroes, Artoria felt she still had room to grow. As she read, a golden magic circle appeared before her. What's this? Soon, Saber sought out Akira. Without knocking, Saber barged into Akira's room. Akira, Agumon has told me everything. Saber ignored Rin and looked directly at Akira, who was holding onto Rin's twin tails. Saber? Why are you here? Before Akira could respond, Rin spoke up. Why is she here? And why does she look so calm? Has she already accepted this as normal? So this is why Saber gave me that advice earlier. Rin bit her lip, her eyes rolling back slightly. However, she didn't blame Saber. In fact, she felt relieved. If Saber had accepted it, did that mean her choice to become Akira's contractor was the right one? I came here because I have some questions for Akira. After answering Rin, Saber didn't hold back. She sat down on the sofa in the room and even poured herself a cup of tea. After sipping her tea, Saber asked calmly, Akira, the disappearance of the dimensional rift. That was your doing, right? Yes, it was, Akira admitted. Agumon told me that you used a special method to halt the world's natural process of destruction. She not only told me that but also explained the current state of our world cluster. If nothing changes, the world will still face destruction in a little over 10 days. Akira nodded. To avoid that future, she borrowed something from me. Agumon borrowed Avalon from you, didn't she? Akira asked. Yes, Avalon. With it, she should be able to hold on a bit longer. Saber nodded. A month. Agumon said that with Avalon, she could last another month. After that, the existing dimensional rifts will continue to expand, and the world will begin its final destruction within a few days. So? Akira asked, already knowing the answer. So, Akira, what do you plan to do? You went through so much trouble to separate this world cluster from the world's will. You're not just going to let it be destroyed, are you? Saber looked at Akira seriously. Akira smiled. Of course not. I've already saved this world cluster once, haven't I? But in the future. In the future, it'll be the same. Saber pondered for a moment. My recovery speed is much faster than the world's destruction. At most, I'll just need to replenish the dimensional energy every hour. As long as we don't encounter an enemy on the level of an outer god, the world will continue to exist. Akira proposed a rather lazy solution. However, Saber had to admit that this lazy method was actually feasible. Of course, there's a cost to this method. Akira added. The cost is that some people might die due to occasional dimensional rifts. Otherwise, this world cluster can continue to exist until a world-level enemy invades. I see. Saber sighed deeply. For a moment, Saber fell silent. However, Akira spoke up first. Saber, if Agumon came to you, she wouldn't have just told you this. She must have also told you about what I'm currently doing. Akira knew Agumon's personality well. So, Saber, you must know all the details now. Right? Yes, I know everything, Saber replied with a wry smile. As she spoke, Saber removed her silver armor. She untied her hair, letting her golden locks shimmer in the sunlight. Saber? What are you doing? Rin's eyes widened in panic. She had just pushed Luvagelita aside, and now Saber was about to take her place? Rin, I'm just fulfilling my contract with Akira, Saber replied calmly. Huh? What contract? Rin swallowed hard, a bad feeling creeping up on her. I made a contract with Akira. In exchange for my service, he'll give me a chance to return to the past and redo Britain. Huh? That's such a ridiculous contract. Returning to the past? How? Before Rin could finish, she fell silent. After hearing Saber's explanation about Akira's efforts to repair the world cluster, Rin realized that returning to the past might not be impossible. Exactly, Rin. Returning to the past is possible. In fact, we've already done it once. What? Rin's expression turned even more incredulous. So, Saber had already betrayed her. When she gave Rin that advice, she was already on Akira's side. Then, Saber, you're now. Rin scrutinized Saber. She never imagined that the noble Saber would one day compete with her on the same stage. Me? I'm just preparing to fulfill the contract. Saber undid the blue ribbon at her chest, leaving only her white shirt. On one hand, I feel I need to make a decision. On the other hand, this world. Rin was even more confused. Rin, those of us with memories of the future are special. Only by absorbing our power can Akira truly make this world his. In that sense, Akira isn't much different from those dimensional beings. It's just that his methods are far gentler. Hearing Saber's words, Rin was momentarily stunned. So, when he said he liked me, was that also a lie? Am I just a tool for him to conquer this world? The thought was disheartening, and Rin's body temperature, which had risen due to the drugs, began to cool. Rin. Even without that, I do like you. Akira held onto Rin's thigh, whispering into her ear. TCH. Who need your liking? Rin flicked her twin tails. She didn't want Akira to see her disappointed expression. If she were truly that disappointed, wouldn't that mean she had fallen for Akira? Rin would never admit that. At most, she'd admit that Akira was the father of her child. But she would never admit that she enjoyed being with Akira or that she found their time together deeply satisfying. Rin refused to admit it for two reasons. First, it went against her tsundere persona. Second, it would create competition with Sakura. For these reasons, Rin tsundere rejected Akira's confession. Seeing Rin's tsundere act, Akira found her even more adorable. Right now, I'd give you an 85. Didn't I say not to tell me if my score isn't higher than Luvagelita's? Rin puffed out her cheeks. If it weren't for how good it felt, she would have turned around and left. Saber, noticing Rin's tsundere behavior, shook her head helplessly. Rin was as tsundere as ever. Now, Saber understood much more than before. She knew that Rin's tsundere personality was just her awkward way of expressing her feelings. Just as Saber was about to say something, an unexpected change occurred. Rin's mana had reached its limit. Crap. I used too much mana earlier when I was competing with Luvagelita. I can't maintain my adult form anymore. Rin panicked. Rin. Saber noticed Rin's distress and was about to help her escape. However, the next second, Rin stopped Saber. No. Saber, don't. Rin's eyes were filled with shock. She understood now. She finally understood why Luvagelita had gotten such a high score. According to Luvagelita, her battle time was 2 hours. But now, Rin had only lasted half that time. Even excluding the mana she wasted competing with Luvagelita, her mana shouldn't have drained so quickly. There was only one explanation. Luvagelita's mana had been completely drained once before, only to be replenished. In fact, Luvagelita's mana had been drained multiple times. So that's how it was. No wonder Luvagelita scored so high. That woman was too cunning. Rin bit her lip, holding Akira's face as she stared into his eyes. If that's how it was, she'd go all out too. If that's the case. What's my score? As Rin spoke, her mana rapidly diminished. With her mana depleted, her body shrank back to her young girl form. Seeing the dazed expression and rolling eyes of the now young girl Rin, Akira finally gave his fair judgment. 95 points. This time, Akira was truly impressed by Rin. Chapter 87, Heroic Spirit Evolution, the Evil Eye King of Temporal Domination Rin. Saber looked helplessly at Rin Tasaka, who had thrown caution to the wind. Rin was always the type to make reckless decisions without considering the consequences. Watching her tremble, Saber remained calm, pulling out a white chess piece from her hand. Akira, do you remember what this is? Of course, it's my piece, Akira replied, holding Rin close, his heart calming after the earlier excitement. That's right, it's your piece, Saber nodded slightly. If I absorb this piece, I should be able to grow stronger, right? I can already feel it calling to me. Indeed, you can, Akira confirmed. If it can make me stronger, then I have no reason not to absorb it. Saber had already came to terms with it. Absorbing the piece, forming a contract, or trading away her luck, what was the difference? In the end, it all meant becoming Akira's possession. This man must have foreseen this day when he gave me the piece. As expected of a demon. They're always skilled in prophecy. A brilliant white light erupted as the second-tier, extraordinary chess piece merged into Saber's body. Saber, whose original strength was already at the level of a Mao, felt her power surge dramatically after absorbing the piece. Akira, watching Saber become even more radiant and divine, cast an appraisal spell on her. Name, Outer God's Kin, World's Kin, Sea Demon, Genderless, Level, 249 plus 30, Note, it hasn't broken through to the Super Devil level yet, but due to the conflict between the Outer God's power and the world will, its strength is unstable. Even so, it's a formidable foe. Attribute evaluation, Strength, B+, Speed, C+, Magic, C+, Durability, A+, Skill proficiency, C, originally a fusion of chaotic forces. It had no martial arts or skill proficiency. However, after fusing with a portion of Allah's power, it gained basic abilities, bloodline ability, S, the Sea Demon's innate power is at the peak of a high-class devil. Its attributes aren't particularly outstanding, but after fusing with the Golden Fleece, it gained demonic traits, significantly increasing its strength. Additionally, the Necronomicon summoned the mad will of an outer god, further enhancing its power and regenerative abilities. Finally, after merging with the world will, its strength has reached an unprecedented level, comprehensive evaluation, Devil King level. Although its rank hasn't reached that level, its combat strength has surpassed that of a Devil King. Note, a product of the fusion between the outer god's will and the world will. This evil sea demon has the potential to bring about the end of the world. The most effective way to deal with it isn't to defeat it outright but to prevent its regeneration. Even with overwhelming power, if the outer god's will and the world will aren't purged, it will be nearly impossible to destroy it completely. Strong, incredibly strong. The evolved Saber was now on par with Aguman in terms of power. While her abilities weren't as versatile as Aguman's, her offensive capabilities might even surpass his. After all, Aguman had never gone all out in front of Akira, so his limits remained unknown. Saber let out a long breath, her gaze toward Akira filled with excitement. She had expected to grow stronger, but she hadn't anticipated such a massive boost in power. Wait. My breath. Saber looked at Akira in confusion. That's right, your breath has turned into spiritual energy. Not just your breath, Saber. Your entire being has undergone evolution and purification, becoming more pure and divine. Akira explained, admitting to himself that the evolved Saber had become even more beautiful, more desirable, more pure and divine, huh? Saber chuckled wryly. The idea that a demon had made her more pure and divine felt like a dark joke. A demon and making someone more holy, how could those two things coexist? Shaking her head, Saber dismissed the strange thought and gently picked up Rin, who had already passed out. Rin. She's too reckless. Saber's eyes softened with concern as she looked at Rin. She didn't think Rin was scheming, she just believed Akira was truly a demon. Using tricks on her was one thing, but using them on Rin? The girl was straightforward and impulsive, easily provoked into reckless actions, and now she was completely overwhelmed. After setting Rin down, Saber took her place. However, she remained as clueless as ever. Despite Akira's eager gaze, Saber hesitated, staying upright as she voiced her thoughts. Akira, if I grow stronger, and you grow stronger, we can better protect this world. If this world is destroyed, then Britain will lose its meaning. So, my choice is to fulfill the contract early. You said it's best not to return to Britain for now, and I agree. My understanding of people and the world is still lacking, and I need to learn and improve. So, if possible, I hope you can guide me and help me learn what I need to know. Saber's hesitation was due to her desire to make a request. Saber, do you really think asking for guidance is appropriate at a time like this? Akira teased. Of course it is, Saber replied with a slight nod. Demons are a race that keeps their promises. So, I must take advantage of this moment to secure your commitment. Saber, you've become quite cunning, Akira said with a wry smile. Is that so? Thank you for the compliment, Saber replied, pleased with herself. Fine, I agree to your terms. But in return, I have a condition of my own. Akira's breathing grew heavier. He had to admit, Saber's timing for making demands was impeccable. What condition? If it's not too unreasonable. Saber, having already given herself to Akira, didn't mind him making additional requests. My condition is, when we fulfill the contract, I want you to be in your heroic spirit form. After a few seconds of silence, Saber rolled her eyes at Akira. You perverted demon. Next time, tell me these things in advance. Don't wait until we're like this to bring it up. Though she bit her lip in frustration, Saber still granted Akira's request. With a burst of mana, she donned her armor as the King of Knights, embodying the image of the noble Night King perfectly. Yes, this is much better. Akira gently touched Saber's armor. Though it was cold and hard, he was satisfied. Without her heroic spirit form, how could he truly feel that he was forming a contract with Artoria herself? Saber, sensing Akira's approval, bit her lip. Pervert. Soon, as the armor settled, Saber let out a soft, cat-like moan. The high-dimensional demon contract was now engraved with Saber's true name. Ding. Detected energy absorption. High-dimensional succubus bloodline activated. Energy absorption target Artoria Pendragon. Ding. Energy absorption successful. Host level increased by 12. Current level, 221. Mikira. Congratulations on completing the villain check-in. Check-in level, gold. Check-in type, event check-in. Check-in event, the Night King's willing submission. Congratulations on receiving the reward. Voice of the stars, voice of the stars, become a being chosen by the stars, tasked with guiding civilizations and ensuring their survival. Can use your power to influence the development of worlds. In times of crisis, you can borrow the power of the stars and the beings residing on them to perform miracles. What the? Voice of the stars? When did I become Ultraman? As Akira internally complained, he was brought back to reality by the changes happening around him. The dimensional energy surging through Saber's body caused her power to erupt once more. A breakthrough. Saber placed a hand on her stomach, feeling the warmth and immense power within. Was this the benefit of forming a contract with a demon? No wonder so many throughout history had chosen to make deals with demons. Saber. Akira was speechless. Both physically and mentally, he could feel the overwhelming power of Saber's evolution. While this was a good thing, Saber's enhanced body made it clear that he was no match for her. Saber was now a far more formidable opponent than Sikvera. But Akira wouldn't back down, no matter how strong his opponent was. Boost, the Red Dragon Emperor's gauntlet manifested. So what if she was a Super Mao? He had defeated Sikvera, a ultimate class demon, while still a high-class demon. Now, as a Mao, he would take on a Super Mao-level Saber. Saber, true to her title as the King of Knights, was now a majestic and valiant warrior. However, the role of her steed was now played by a dragon with the power of the Red Dragon Emperor. Saber, who already possessed the bloodline of the Red Dragon, riding atop the Red Dragon Emperor. This was fate in a way. Akira, with my riding skill, even if my mount is a phantasmal beast, as long as I can rein it in, I can control it with ease. After her racial evolution and personal advancement, Saber had gained a lot of confidence. And it was this confident and noble King of Knights that Akira sought to conquer. Saber, who told you I only have the power of the Red Dragon? What? Saber frowned, not understanding what Akira meant. Saber, do you know the most famous use of time stop? As he spoke, Akira's eyes changed color. Sacred gear, eyes of the world's end. This sacred gear had some connection to the Nasuverse. Akira's gear originated from his bishop, Gaspar, who possessed the power of the demon god Balor. In the Nasuverse, Balor was known for the mystic eyes of death perception, wielded by Shikiryu-ugi. Unfortunately, this world didn't have Shikiryu-ugi, only a substitute. Otherwise, Akira would have loved to experience the differences between the two. Though he activated the eyes of the world's end, Akira knew that alone wouldn't be enough to threaten Saber. But Akira had never claimed that was his only power. Overlay. The Beast of Darkness and Night, Sacred Gear Fusion, the Evil Eye King of Temporal Domination, Both the Eyes of the World's End and the Beast of Darkness and Night were manifestations of Gasper's power. When fully awakened, Gasper's sacred gear was named the Evil Eye King of Temporal Domination. In its balance breaker form, not only did it grant new abilities, but its original powers also became stronger. Akira activated Balance Breaker to enhance the time-stop ability of the Eyes of the World's End. Finally, using the full power of his sacred gear, Akira stopped Saber's time. Not only that, but he also accelerated his own time. Saber has strong magic resistance, so the time stop won't last long. If not for the high level of the Evil Eye King of Temporal Domination, her magic resistance alone would have rendered the time stop useless. As Akira predicted, Saber quickly broke free from the time stop using her magic resistance. However, the moment she regained consciousness, she was hit with the full impact of the time stop. Her eyes rolled back, and for the first time since her evolution, she showed a moment of weakness in front of Akira. Good. It works. Confirming the method's effectiveness, Akira only had one thing left to do. Once, twice, thrice he repeated the process until Saber was completely overwhelmed. As Akira had said, his recovery was incredibly strong. Theoretically, he could replenish the dimensional energy of the world multiple times an hour. With such vast reserves of chaos and dimensional energy, Akira could afford to be extravagant. And so, under Akira's new strategy, Saber lost all sense of time. For her, it was a continuous process. Every time she regained consciousness, she was hit with the full impact of the time stop, amplifying her sensations by several times, if not hundreds. You perverted demon. Saber could only manage this weak complaint, completely defenseless. The Emerald Eyes of the King of Knights, once filled with duty and her nation, now only held a stubborn resistance against the Demon King. Chapter 88, The Fate of the Tasaka Family, the candidate for Fallen Angel Governor 2 hours later. Finally, Saber declared her surrender. The noble King of Knights had ultimately fallen to the cunning schemes of the Demon King. There was no helping it. The time manipulation abilities of a god-slaying sacred gear in its balance breaker state were simply too overpowered. The accumulation and sudden release of pleasure had overwhelmed even the steadfast will of the King of Knights, causing her to willingly seek the Demon King's affection. Before collapsing, Saber glanced at Rin Tasaka, who was beside her. She admitted that she had underestimated Akira's capabilities. Not only Rin, but even she herself was no match for Akira. Should I call for more reinforcements? Akira muttered as he looked at the fallen Saber. He hadn't expected this move to be so devastating. Even Saber, who had reached a level beyond that of a Demon King, couldn't withstand it. Time-based abilities were truly broken, no matter how they were used. Several more hours passed. By the time Rin Tasaka regained consciousness, it was already dark outside. Ugh. Letting out a few adorable groans, Rin began her usual waking up routine. Hearing her voice, Sakura Mita smiled softly, observing Rin's face, which still bore traces of exhaustion. Big sister, you're awake? Sakura's gentle voice reached Rin's ears. For the past 10 years, this was how Sakura had been waking Rin up. Sakura. Get me some water. Rin mumbled, not even opening her eyes. Of course, big sister. A few seconds later, a cup of warm water was placed by Rin's side. Thanks. Sakura. Rin struggled to sit up and took a sip of the water. Indeed, it was a blessing to have Sakura by her side. It was a blessing that Sakura had escaped the Mita household. Wait. Escaped the Mita household? At that thought, Rin's mind snapped awake. Right. They weren't in the future. They had traveled back to the past, 10 years ago. To be precise, the future timeline they had experienced had never truly existed. That timeline was merely a simulation created by the world's consciousness to maximize their potential. Realizing this, Rin finally came to her senses. Yes. The past was something they could never return to. As Rin was lost in her thoughts, a familiar sound reached her ears. The sound was mixed with the faint rustling of fabric, soft yet unmistakable. Is that Mother's voice? Rin stiffened, turning her head toward the source of the sound. There, she saw Aoi Tasaka's green sandals rising and falling rhythmically. From the emerald nail polish on Aoi's delicate toes, Rin caught a glimpse of her own gaping mouth. What had happened while she was asleep? And medicine by Aoi's side. Why did it look so familiar? Wait, was that medicine Aoi had bought for herself? Rin? Aoi's gentle gaze fell on Rin, though her eyes soon rolled back in pleasure. Rin, you understand, don't you? Aoi's voice was tender yet filled with longing. Rin wanted to say something, but the words caught in her throat. After all, she had no right to stop Aoi from pursuing her own happiness. In truth, Aoi wasn't their biological mother. She was their aunt. Akira's time traveling had not only saved Shirley and Natalia but had also altered the fates of many others. For example, Taiga Fujimura, Claudia, Aoi Tasaka. And so on. After the timeline changed, Tokiomi Tasaka had still married a woman from the Tasaka family, but it wasn't Aoi, it was her older sister. Due to the world's correctional forces, Rin and Sakura were stillborn. Unfortunately, their biological mother's health rapidly deteriorated after giving birth, and she passed away soon after. To give the children a more complete family, Tokiomi decided to leave them in the care of the Zenju household. This way, Aoi, their aunt, could raise them as their mother. As for Tokiomi, he would visit periodically to teach them magecraft. During her time as their mother, Aoi had given up her personal life to devote herself entirely to raising Rin and Sakura. It wasn't until Aoi's death that Rin learned from Kiriko Tamine that Aoi wasn't their biological mother. Compared to the mother she had never known, Rin believed that Aoi was their true mother. And now, Rin had witnessed a different side of Aoi. This Aoi was no longer just a mother but a woman. A woman who, after giving up her right to love for so long, had finally found happiness with a man. Mother. No, Aoi. Rin felt that calling Aoi mother no longer felt appropriate. It's fine, Rin. You can still call me mother, Aoi replied with a warm, maternal smile. Yes. Mother. Rin watched as Aoi's face radiated happiness, and tears of mixed emotions streamed down her face. On one hand, she was happy for Aoi. On the other, she felt guilty for the years Aoi had sacrificed for her and Sakura. As Rin wallowed in her guilt, a gentle breeze carried the scent of lavender, and Sakura's purple hair cascaded around her. Sakura had embraced her sister. Big sister, there's no need to feel so sad. Mother is happy now, isn't she? Sakura's voice was soothing. Yes. This is her salvation. And our atonement. Rin sighed, accepting the reality of the situation. However, as she did, a sharp glint appeared in her eyes. Rin flicked her twin tails and glared at Akira, who was still with Aoi. Hey. You damn demon king. If you dare hurt Mother, I'll never forgive you. Akira remained silent for a few seconds before smiling and calling out to Rin. Rin. What? What is it? Rin felt uncomfortable under Akira's gaze, which seemed to look at her as if she were his daughter. Rin, do you remember the promise we made? Akira asked. Promise? What promise? Rin was confused. The one where I said I'd tell you if your score was higher than Luvia's. Now, I can officially tell you, Rin, congratulations. If we include Sakura and Aoi, your score is 100. Huh? 100? Really? For a moment, Rin was elated at having achieved a perfect score. But a few seconds later, she realized what Akira meant. Who wants a score like that? The thought of her score being inflated because of Sakura and Aoi infuriated her. Even if it meant surpassing Luvia, she wanted to do it on her own. Relying on Sakura and Aoi didn't count. A tie was fine. She, Rin Tasaka, would never accept a victory achieved through such means. So, you want me to score you again? Akira's smile turned slightly mischievous. Rin hesitated for a moment before regaining her composure. Fine. Bring it on. I've had enough of you bullying Mother. Aoi is just an ordinary person. Bullying someone like her doesn't make you a hero. To take on a demon king, someone with both magecraft and servant powers is more suitable. Rin, seeing Aoi's vulnerable state, felt it was her duty to step in. With her servant powers, Rin could take the lead, while Aoi, being an ordinary person, could only follow. However, someone else wasn't about to let Rin take over. Big sister. You're overstepping your bounds. Sakura's chains wrapped around Rin, restraining her. Sakura? What are you doing? Shouldn't you have already retired? Rin noticed the familiar scent on Sakura, realizing that Sakura had already retired from the competition. Of course. If Sakura had the time to take care of her, it meant Sakura had already finished her part. That's right, big sister. But there's still someone who hasn't retired yet, Sakura replied with a smile. Huh? Who's left? Rin raised an eyebrow. Oh, and big sister, I forgot to tell you. Unlike you, I scored 97 points. What? How? Rin immediately turned to Akira. Hadn't Akira said he loved her legs and feet? She had gone all out. How could Sakura's score be higher than hers? Did Akira find Sakura cuter and more beautiful than her? Damn it. Men and their lies. Big sister, don't misunderstand. I got that score because of Ryder, Sakura explained with a smile. Ryder? Rin's eyebrows shot up. That's right. Sakura had summoned the legendary Medusa as her servant. As a heroic spirit, Ryder's charm was undoubtedly on par with theirs. Yes, Ryder. Sakura nodded. Ryder's true body has been summoned from the throne of heroes. Come out and say hello to big sister, Ryder. At Sakura's call, a shadow emerged from her and flew to Aoi's side. Soon, Ryder took Aoi's place, saving her from the brink of exhaustion. As Sakura had said, an hour ago, Akira had absorbed Ryder's fortune. Considering that Ryder's power had reached the level of a demon king after absorbing the pieces, Akira had put in considerable effort to conquer her. Ding. Detected fortune absorption. High-dimensional succubus bloodline activated. Fortune absorption target Medusa, Ryder. Ding. Fortune absorption successful. Host level increased by 9. Current level, 30, Demon King tier. An hour ago, thanks to Ryder's fortune, Akira had taken another step forward on his path to becoming a Demon King. Damn it. I didn't expect this. Rin bit her lip. If that was the case, then Sakura's higher score made sense. Wait, if Sakura has Ryder, then I have Saber. A brilliant idea popped into Rin's head. Coincidentally, Saber was still in the room. By the large window, Saber sat on a chair, sipping tea and reading a book. Watching the chaos unfold, Saber shook her head in exasperation. Having experienced Akira's time manipulation abilities firsthand, she knew that Akira was just playing around. As someone who only engaged in serious battles, this petty squabbling held no interest for her. Rin was about to call out to Saber but noticed the familiar scent of dimensional energy on her. In the end, Rin reluctantly withdrew her hand. Meanwhile, in the DxD world, Kwa Town, the fallen angel governor, Azazel, was busy with his sacred gear research. The door creaked open, and a serious-looking man walked in. His name was Barakiel. A 10-winged fallen angel, known as the Lightning of God, Barakiel was a true powerhouse, surpassing even the likes of Kokabiel. If Azazel was the leader of the fallen angels, Barakiel could be considered the third or fourth in command. Azazel, a new prodigy has emerged among the fallen angels. I think you'll be very interested in him. Oh? Why's that? Azazel was curious about Barakiel's confidence. Because not only is he incredibly strong, but he also possesses exceptional research skills and the ability to construct powerful magical formulas. In my opinion, his research abilities might even rival yours. Someone like that truly exists among the fallen angels? Azazel raised an eyebrow. It wasn't that he looked down on the fallen angels. If there were a second Azazel, the fallen angels wouldn't be in their current state. He's the real deal. Anyway, he's quickly gained the support of many high-ranking fallen angels thanks to his research prowess. You mentioned wanting to step down after the peace treaty is signed, right? If you do, he's a strong candidate to succeed you as governor. Barakiel finally got to the point. So, why are you telling me this? Azazel leaned back, a playful smile on his face. Azazel, you know why, Barakiel replied, rubbing his temples. Alright, I get it. I'll personally test him. Does that satisfy you? Azazel sighed, a wry smile on his face. Chapter 89, The Banquet of Kings. Saber, altered by Akira Guman, successfully infiltrated the ranks of the fallen angels using his scientific prowess and Akira's 12-winged fallen angel avatar. Meanwhile, in another world, Fate World, night had fallen over the Innsburn Castle, where the so-called Banquet of Kings was taking place. However, this time, the banquet wasn't initiated by the King of Conquerors, Iskander. No, this time, the one who called for the gathering was none other than Saber herself. Boom. The sound of thunder echoed as Iskander arrived in his chariot, pulled by divine bulls. Haha. Saber, I never expected you to be the one to call for this banquet. What's the matter? Did you feel your words last time weren't enough, so you want to try again? Iskander laughed heartily as he stepped down from his chariot. Before we engage in battle, why not share a drink? Saber extended her hand, inviting Iskander inside. A banquet? Excellent. I've been longing to taste the Hero King's finest wine. Iskander strode in with his usual boisterous demeanor. In the center of the courtyard, Saber and Iskander raised their cups. Both of them felt an eerie sense of déjà vu. After all, this wasn't the first time they had participated in such a gathering. In another timeline, the three kings had already debated their ideals once before. And they all remembered how it had ended. Whoosh! Golden particles of light shimmered, and Gilgamesh, the king of heroes, made his grand entrance. Saber, I must say, I admire your tenacity. Even after losing once, you still dare to invite me again. That stubbornness of yours is quite amusing, Gilgamesh said as he took his seat, pouring himself a glass of the finest wine. This time, however, Gilgamesh was far more interested in the banquet than before. Why? Because all three kings present carried memories of the future. With such knowledge, this gathering promised to be far more entertaining than the last. How could he possibly miss it? Saber accepted the divine wine from Gilgamesh and drank it in one swift motion. She then looked up, her gaze steady. Gilgamesh, you seem to have misunderstood something. When did I ever lose? I don't consider the last banquet a defeat. Gilgamesh's serpent-like eyes narrowed. Oh? How interesting. As a king, you still fail to grasp the true meaning of kingship. I'm curious, what words do you have to redeem yourself this time? I, too, am curious, Iskander added, a playful smirk on his face. Saber glanced briefly toward the castle before turning her resolute gaze back to the two kings. The reason you both dismissed me last time is because you are both tyrants from history. Throughout human history, there have been many tyrants, but not all kings are tyrants. You may define kingship in your own way, but there are other kings, other people, who define it differently. If I believe myself to be a king, if the people of Britain believed me to be their king, and if history remembers me as a king, then I am a king. Her voice was firm and clear, a stark contrast to her demeanor during the previous banquet. For a moment, silence filled the courtyard. Then, almost simultaneously, both Iskander and Gilgamesh burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. Saber, are you saying that a king who dedicates themselves entirely to their people is still a king? Iskander asked, still chuckling. Yes, without a doubt, I am a king, Saber replied earnestly. Iskander shook his head, a hint of pity in his eyes. Saber, I've told you this before, but it seems you've forgotten. Let me remind you again, a king does not exist to serve the nation. The nation and its people exist to serve the king. A king without desire is nothing more than a decoration. A true king is one who embodies greed, joy, and the extremes of human ambition. It is this very nature that inspires their subjects to admire, to envy, and to aspire to become kings themselves. No, you're wrong, Iskander. Saber stood up, her voice sharp. The people do not desire to serve a tyrant, nor do they wish to become kings themselves. What they desire is simple: food, shelter, and a peaceful life. The men who followed you into battle were not the common people. They were knights, generals, and nobles, not the masses. That is why you lost the support of the people. You conquered lands but failed to govern them. What meaning does such a reign hold? A conqueror who cannot rule is not a king. You are nothing more than a force of destruction, leaving behind chaos and suffering in your wake. In my time, I fought against conquerors like you. Iskander listened in silence, his expression unreadable. After a moment, he downed his wine and let out a hearty laugh. Ha ha ha. Saber, you speak boldly. Are you denying my right to be called a king? Yes, Iskander, Saber replied without hesitation. Conquest and kingship are not synonymous. A king may engage in conquest, but it should never define their reign. A ruler who cannot govern is unworthy of the title. Iskander stood, gazing up at the moon. Ha ha ha. You're right, Saber. Conquest did dominate much of my life. But you should know, I've conquered countless kings like you in my time. And what of it? Saber shot back. Were those kings more focused on conquest or governance? Conquerors like you are nothing more than catalysts for change, stirring nations to grow stronger. But you will never be the mainstream. Why? Because peace and prosperity are what the people truly desire. Even your own followers only sought power and status. In the end, they, too, longed for a stable life. That is why conquerors like you will never define an era. Her words echoed through the courtyard. Gilgamesh remained silent, observing the exchange with keen interest. After all, he wasn't a conqueror in the same vein as Iskander. Iskander drained his cup and let out a booming laugh. Ha ha ha. Saber, you're right. I am not like those mediocre kings who achieved nothing. But since you dare to challenge my ideals, I acknowledge your right to call yourself a king. After all, kings prove their worth through action, not words. That's why I am known as the king of conquerors. He paused, then added, by the way, Saber, when did you become so eloquent? It's not eloquence. I was simply taught some valuable lessons, Saber replied, her gaze briefly flickering toward the castle. I see, Gilgamesh interjected, a sly smile on his face. He had noticed something. Saber, who taught you these ideas? These words are not your own. Saber didn't hesitate. These ideas were taught to me by Akira. Both Iskander and Gilgamesh fell silent for a moment. Then, Gilgamesh spoke again. Saber, don't you think that by adopting someone else's ideals, you've lost the last vestige of your dignity as a king? A king without their own will is unworthy of the title. As soon as Gilgamesh finished speaking, the courtyard was illuminated by the glow of a teleportation circle. Is that so? By your logic, Gilgamesh, all the kings who became heroic spirits after death must have lost their dignity long ago. After all, isn't serving as a pawn of a left far more degrading than listening to the counsel of others? Gilgamesh's eyes narrowed as he turned to face the newcomer. Mongrel. Who gave you permission to attend a banquet of kings? Akira, completely unfazed, took a seat on a chair brought out by Jean. A banquet of kings? Didn't you allow Diarmid to join last time? Or are your gatherings so exclusive that no one else is welcome? Gilgamesh scoffed. Last time, That knight was allowed to attend as a gesture of royal generosity. But you are unworthy of even being in the presence of kings. As soon as Gilgamesh finished speaking, a system notification chimed in Akira's mind. Ding! Congratulations, host. You have triggered a villain sign-in event, sign-in level, gold, sign-in type, special event, noble phantasm theft, requirement, steal at least 100 noble phantasms from Gilgamesh. Note, within 24 hours, you will gain access to a special inventory capable of storing noble phantasms. Any noble phantasm you touch can be claimed as your own. Akira couldn't help but smirk. Well, looks like I'm about to become the ultimate treasure thief. Gilgamesh frowned. Why did he feel like Akira was looking at him with a strange, almost predatory gleam in his eyes? Gilgamesh, you said I have no right to attend this banquet. Tell me, does a demon king who commands a 12-winged fallen angel not qualify as a king? With a flourish, Akira summoned his 12-winged fallen angel avatar. The sheer presence of the being, radiating power at the peak of the super devil level, was overwhelming. My name is Akira. Akira Leviathan. Pleased to meet you, mediocre kings of the human world. Leviathan. Gilgamesh's eyes glinted dangerously. He had a deep-seated hatred for serpents, and Leviathan, the embodiment of chaos, was no exception. Before Gilgamesh could respond, Iskander eagerly poured Akira a drink. A demon king from the underworld? Welcome. I've always been curious about hell. Curious? Don't tell me you're thinking of conquering hell after taking over the human world, Akira quipped as he accepted the drink. Ah, you read my mind. Truly, a demon king from hell is something else, Iskander replied with a grin. Gilgamesh laughed. Ha ha ha. Only you, Iskander, would dream of conquering hell. Akira took a sip of the divine wine. Demons are not so different from humans. We are beings of desire, after all. Then, like humans, demons can be killed, correct? Gilgamesh asked, his tone laced with menace. Indeed, demons can be killed, Akira replied, meeting Gilgamesh's gaze. Care to try, King of Heroes? The 12-winged fallen angel behind Akira spread its wings, casting an imposing shadow under the moonlight. Chapter 90, the oldest village chief of humanity. The dimensional sea is still a sea. I think it's worth a try, but not now. Rather than testing the metal of a Helma, what I'm more curious about is, how did you manage to change Saber's mindset to what it is now? Gilgamesh, the Golden King, knew full well that it was Akira who had influenced Saber to say what she had just said. Infusing your demonic ideals into the noble king of knights has diminished her value as a collectible. Leviathan, don't you think what you've done is a terrible waste? Gilgamesh was clearly displeased with Akira's manipulation of Saber's thoughts. In his eyes, Saber was already his prospective collectible, and only he had the right to alter her mindset. Hearing Gilgamesh's words, even the usually composed Saber grew angry. Archer. I am not some object. I am a living person. It is my freedom to accept or reject any ideas I choose. Gilgamesh shook his head and walked into the courtyard. So, Saber, you chose to accept the demon's ideals and change your original beliefs? Saber, this version of you is quite ugly in my eyes. Whoosh, golden ripples shimmered as weapons materialized, embedding themselves into the lawn and tearing up chunks of grass. Gilgamesh flipped his wine cup, letting the divine wine spill onto the ground. Saber, don't you think that being tempted by a demon makes you like these ants, drawn to the spilled wine? This version of you has lost the qualification to be my collectible. Archer. Who said I wanted to be your collectible? Saber retorted with disdain. Gilgamesh was, as always, confident and utterly insufferable. Akira, too, smiled as he swirled his glass of red wine. Gilgamesh, you just said that Saber, who listens to others' advice, has been tempted by a demon. Does what I say have anything to do with me being a demon? Of course it does. Demons have always been creatures that deceive others with sweet words. Anyone who makes a contract with a demon is destined to fall into the abyss. Gilgamesh only tolerated Akira's presence because he was a Ma'o. Any ordinary demon daring to attend a king's banquet would have been obliterated on the spot. As he drank, Akira calmly replied, Gilgamesh, you're right. Anyone who makes a contract with a demon is destined to fall into the abyss. But, conversely, it's precisely because demons have the power to grant wishes that people are willing to walk into that abyss. The advice I gave Saber has nothing to do with me being a demon. Even if I weren't a demon, as long as my words made sense, she would listen. Even if I weren't a demon, as long as I had the power to fulfill her wishes, she would still make a deal with me. Judging solely based on identity, while ignoring the facts, Gilgamesh, don't you think that makes you rather shallow? Ha ha ha, Gilgamesh laughed heartily, having witnessed Akira's silver tongue in action. See, Saber? This is what I warned you about, the sweet words of a demon. Is this how you were swayed, changing your beliefs? Saber, I am deeply disappointed in you. Gilgamesh shook his head, his expression one of regret. As Gilgamesh had said, demons were extremely dangerous beings. Merely conversing with one could lead to temptation. Making a deal with a demon would plunge one into an unfathomable abyss. However, Saber didn't care. Because not only she, but this entire world was on the brink of falling into that abyss. In such a situation, the only one willing to pull her and this world back was Akira. Even if the world's crisis was caused by Akira's actions in the first place. Seeing Gilgamesh speak like this, Akira couldn't help but laugh. Haha, how amusing. Gilgamesh, do you really think that listening to others' advice before acting is something shameful? Of course. In my era, everything was decided by me alone. Even something as trivial as a cow giving birth was handled by me personally. It was precisely because of me that Babylon prospered. Every one of my subjects lived fulfilling lives, their spirits rich with hope for the future. You take pride in micromanaging everything? Akira sneered. Gilgamesh, the reason you could do that was because the Babylon you ruled was no bigger than the palm of my hand. Akira's words were shocking, but after a moment of thought, both Saber and Alexander the Great nodded in agreement. Indeed, in terms of territory, Gilgamesh's Babylon wasn't particularly large. Akira continued his verbal assault. The so-called oldest king of humanity? More like the oldest village chief of humanity. If your territory were larger, you would have had to delegate power to others. A petty ruler of a tiny kingdom like yours dares to claim absolute authority? If you had the territory of Zhuyuanshang, do you think you'd still have time to worry about which cow gave birth? Akira's words made Gilgamesh's veins bulge. The great oldest king of humanity had just been reduced to the oldest village chief of humanity. And the worst part was, Babylon really wasn't that big. For a ruler, listening to others' advice is not a flaw. Entrusting the nation to capable individuals is not a sign of incompetence. A ruler only needs the wisdom to recognize talent. A wise ruler can place the right people in the right positions. Even if they make a mistake, they can admit it and correct it in time. Don't you think that Saber, as she is now, is a ruler with such wisdom? Wisdom? A king deceived and corrupted by a demon has no wisdom. Gilgamesh shook his head. Saber, I've lost interest in you. A tainted vase like you is no longer worthy of my collection. Gilgamesh was genuinely disappointed. The noble king of knights had willingly fallen, choosing to side with a demon. As Gilgamesh drank, his master, Kirai Kotamin, was suffering. Kirai dodged fireballs that came flying at him, each one grazing his body and perfectly predicting his movements. It was clear that his attacker was toying with him. Normally, he would have called Gilgamesh for help, but he knew the Golden King was currently drinking with others. Disturbing Gilgamesh during his wine time would have severe consequences. So, unless his life was in immediate danger, Kirai wouldn't summon him. The attacker must have chosen this moment precisely because of that. But they don't seem intent on killing me. Kirai was frustrated. He couldn't call Gilgamesh, nor could he ignore the threat. He was stuck. Assassin. Buy me some time. Kirai resorted to his usual tactic, sending out assassins to delay the enemy while he made his escape. Whoosh. However, the moment the assassins appeared, they were instantly vaporized by high-purity fireballs. Huh? Kirai realized something was wrong. This time, he summoned multiple assassins at once. Whoosh. 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 Again, the assassins were instantly annihilated by a barrage of fireballs. So, their target is the assassins? This only deepened Kirai's confusion. By all accounts, he and Gilgamesh were the greater threats. Why would the enemy focus on the assassins? What Kirai would never know was that Akira's reason for targeting the assassins was simple: he wanted to prevent them from being killed by Alexander the Great. Due to the great demon king of the Holy Grail war check-in, Akira needed to eliminate all servants. Since the assassins were originally defeated by Ryder in the story, Akira decided to take them out early to avoid any plot corrections. What a pain. Kirai was at his wit's end. He weighed the cost of losing a group of assassins against the risk of angering Gilgamesh. Meanwhile, the king's banquet was drawing to a close. Compared to the original timeline, Saber had performed much better. While it wasn't enough to convince Gilgamesh and Alexander, it was enough to earn their respect. There have been countless rulers in history who said there's only one way to rule. If someone governs differently from you, but does it well, you have to acknowledge it. The wine is good, but it will eventually run out. Alexander's voice was calm. Both he and Gilgamesh knew that after this banquet, the Holy Grail War would come to an end. Because a new era was about to begin. Saber, Archer, it's time to consider the future of this world. Alexander laughed boldly. Having now obtained a physical body, His next step was to embark on his dream of conquering the world. And to do that, he would have to deal with the two individuals before him. You don't need to worry about that, Akira said, setting down his wine glass. Because this world will become my collection. Having gathered enough energy, Akira only needed to claim a few more individuals before he could take this world with him. Becoming a demon's collection, huh? Alexander shook his head. Then I cannot stand idly by. As heroic spirits, as heroes of human history, we cannot allow this world to fall into the hands of a demon. As kings, we cannot submit to the might of a Mao. Alexander's words were tantamount to a declaration of war. Oh? Is that so? Then show me your resolve. Akira smiled faintly and stomped his foot. With Akira as the center, dimensional energy rapidly expanded, transporting everyone to the outer walls of the world before they could react. This is outside the world, Alexander said, his expression grave. That's right, outside the world, Gilgamesh nodded. Oh, I almost forgot to mention. The reason the world's destruction has accelerated is because I initiated a dimensional storm, Gilgamesh said proudly. Hero King, why would you do that? Alexander asked, his tone serious. Why? To filter humanity, of course. Gilgamesh replied as if it were obvious. Modern humans are mediocre, lazy, and I can't find a single spark of brilliance in them. And there are simply too many of them. The subjects I need are those who can withstand the invasion of dimensional space, fight against the minions of outer gods, and emerge victorious. Alexander fell silent. He had to admit, compared to his own desire for conquest, Gilgamesh was on another level of madness. Seeing Alexander's silence, Akira spoke up. Alexander, you just said that as heroic spirits, you cannot allow this world to fall into the hands of a demon, right? Fine, I'll give you a chance. I won't ask you to stop the world's destruction. But at the very least, can you stop the invasion from outside? If you can hold back the expanding dimensional rifts on your own, I'll allow you to become a king in my world. Hearing Akira's words, Alexander drew his sword. Leviathan. I am already a king. I don't need a demon's approval. But as you said, if I lack the power to protect my nation, I have no right to conquer others. If I lack the power to protect this world, I have no right to conquer it. I will face your challenge alongside my soldiers. Very well, I respect your choice, Akira smiled. Aguman, you can open the battlefield now. Understood, Akira, crack. As Aguman activated the battlefield, a massive corridor appeared before Alexander. It was hundreds of kilometers wide and its length stretched beyond sight. Ionia Hete Iro, Alexander summoned his army, the companions of his conquests, and charged into the endless dimensional sea. Watching Alexander fight with all his might, Akira smirked mischievously. In a way, the dimensional sea was still a sea, right? Perhaps this was how Alexander's dream would be fulfilled. Chapter 91, Release of the 13 Restraints. The ultimate secret sword. The conqueror had thrown himself into the fray with everything he had. Now, only Akira, Saber, and Gilgamesh remained on the battlefield. Akira glanced at the arrogant Golden King, his mind racing. He had wondered why Aguman had warned him that the world's destruction was accelerating at an unnatural pace. Now, it all made sense. Gilgamesh was the culprit behind it all. This arrogant king had caused him so much trouble, and Akira felt it was only right to return the favor. Gilgamesh, Akira spoke slowly, his voice calm but laced with menace. Oh? Are you planning to make a move against me, Leviathan? Gilgamesh smirked, his golden armor gleaming as ripples of energy began to form around him. Facing Akira, Gilgamesh had shifted from his usual overconfidence to a more cautious stance. He had already drawn his ultimate weapon, before the battle had even begun. Before we start, there's something I want to tell you, Akira said, his smile dripping with mockery. Oh? And what might that be? I must say, I appreciate subordinates who report to their king, Gilgamesh replied, trying to maintain his usual air of superiority. But in this situation, verbal jabs held no weight. Subordinate? Don't flatter yourself, Akira retorted. I just wanted to let you know while you were busy playing king, Saber and I have had our fun. Over 20,000 times. Gilgamesh's eyebrow twitched. What do you mean by had fun? Saber, come here, Akira beckoned. Akira, you're really... Saber sighed, her cheeks flushing slightly. She knew exactly what Akira was planning, but she complied nonetheless. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. Akira gently tilted Saber's chin, bringing her lips to his. Saber let out a soft moan before reciprocating the kiss with equal passion. She held on to Akira tightly, her hands resting on his neck and waist, showing no hesitation. Saber. You. Gilgamesh's voice trembled with rage as he watched the scene unfold. He had suspected that Saber had been influenced by Akira, but he never imagined she would display such a feminine side. The Golden King's mana surged uncontrollably, his anger reaching unprecedented levels. "You dare insult a king? You dare insult me?" Gilgamesh roared. Around him, thousands of golden ripples formed in the air as he summoned his Gate of Babylon. But Akira was unfazed. As his power had grown, so had his ability to manipulate dimensional energy. In response to Gilgamesh's barrage of noble phantasms, Akira conjured a massive dimensional barrier, absorbing every weapon that came his way. The bombardment lasted for half a minute before Gilgamesh finally ceased his attack. Without releasing their true names, his noble phantasms were useless against Akira's defenses. Akira released Saber, who was now blushing deeply, and smirked at Gilgamesh. "So? What are you going to do about it? Kings of smaller nations have always been humiliated by emperors. Who said a human king couldn't make deals with a devil?" He paused, then added with a sly grin, "Oh, and by the way, Saber is quite refreshing." Akira licked his lips, savoring the memory, while Saber pouted and lightly punched his arm. Her playful demeanor only infuriated Gilgamesh further. "You insolent fool! You're digging your own grave!" Gilgamesh roared, unleashing another wave of noble phantasms. This time, he activated their true names. Indra's thunder, this weapon, a relic from ancient Indian mythology, was said to have been used by the thunder god Indra to slay the dragon Vritra. In the world of DxD, it was a weapon of immense power, capable of rivaling even the mightiest of dragons. Harp, the slayer of immortals, a unique, sickle-shaped blade with the ability to inflict wounds that could never heal. It was the weapon used by the hero Perseus to behead Medusa, rendering her immortality useless. Gungnir, the spear of destiny, the spear of Odin, the Allfather of Norse mythology. Once thrown, it would strike its target with unerring accuracy, a weapon of absolute destruction. But Akira remained calm. "It's useless," he said with a dismissive wave. "Agumen," Akira called out. "Understood, Akira." Before Gilgamesh's noble phantasms could reach them, a massive golden barrier, several kilometers in diameter, materialized in front of Akira. This was the Shield of Courage and Faith, a protective barrier created by Agumen to shield the world from external threats. Akira released Saber's hand and turned to her. "Saber, I think you can handle him now, right?" Saber and Gilgamesh were both top-tier servants, their strengths originally on par. But now, Saber had absorbed Akira's second-tier mutation piece, evolving into something far greater. "Leave it to me," Saber said confidently. Her golden sword, Excalibur, materialized in her hand, its radiant light cutting through the darkness. She stepped forward, her resolve unwavering. She knew the truth: Gilgamesh had been manipulating the dimensional storms, testing humanity and the world itself. Such a king, clinging to the old ways, was a danger to the fragile balance of the world. He had to be stopped. Behind Saber, Akira's body began to glow with a blue aura. Divide, the wings of the White Dragon Emperor appeared on his back. Vanishing Dragon Balance Breaker, forbidden move armor of the White Dragon Emperor. In an instant, Akira was clad in the exquisite armor of the White Dragon Emperor, its blue radiance illuminating the battlefield. "I awaken as the heavenly dragon who has lost everything to the truth of domination." The dragon armor pulsed with immense power as Akira's form began to shift, taking on the appearance of a dragon. "My body knows no limits, my heart seeks the infinite. I, who have attained the pinnacle of the White Dragon's tyranny, invite you to the realm of purity and perfection, Juggernaut Drive." As Akira activated his Juggernaut Drive, Gilgamesh was not idle. After several failed attempts, he finally understood the situation. The Shield of Courage and Faith had blocked his noble phantasms, and Akira's dimensional manipulation had rendered his attacks useless. His weapons were either being stolen or transported to another dimension. He could no longer rely on simply firing noble phantasms from his Gate of Babylon. He needed to activate their true names. "You insolent fool! How about this?" Gilgamesh roared, summoning the Sword of Rupture. The blade began to spin, its power distorting the very fabric of reality. "Speak of the beginning, the severing of heaven and earth, the gospel of the void that splits the world, the sword that cleaves the world is my weave the stars, gather the cosmos. The so-called heavenly hell is the end of the primordial night, don't think you'll succeed." Saber shouted, her Excalibur glowing with unparalleled brilliance. Thanks to Akira's mutation piece, she could now release the 13 restraints of Excalibur, transforming it into the true sword of promised victory. "Release the 13 restraints. Commence the round table decision," Saber declared. As she spoke, the spectral forms of her Knights of the Round Table appeared around her, each granting their approval to release the sword's full power. "Acknowledged, this is a battle against a stronger foe. Acknowledged, this is a battle against evil. Acknowledged, this is a battle to save the world. acknowledged this is a battle in pursuit of truth. As the restraints were lifted one by one, Excalibur's power grew exponentially, distorting the very space around it. This was the true sword of promised victory, a weapon capable of annihilating all evil. Meanwhile, Gilgamesh had completed his preparations. Silently accept your death. In Numa Elish, EA's rotation reached its peak, its power tearing through the dimensional fabric as it hurtled towards Saber. At the same time, Excalibur's light reached its zenith. Acknowledged this is a battle for the king's path. Acknowledged this is a sword to save humanity. All 13 knights of the Round Table granted their approval. Excalibur, the light of Excalibur pierced through the dimensional void, its radiance overwhelming even Gilgamesh's Numa Elish. The clash of their attacks created a shockwave that shattered the surrounding space, obliterating everything in its path. But Saber's light was stronger. Her Excalibur overpowered Gilgamesh's EA, forcing the Golden King to retreat. Gilgamesh! Watch out! Akira's voice echoed through the battlefield. Gilgamesh looked up to see Akira, now in the form of a massive white dragon, charging toward him. Gate of Babylon, Enkidu, Gilgamesh summoned his chains, but Akira was prepared. A golden shadow emerged from Akira's body, intercepting the chains, while Akira himself closed the distance. As Akira drew nearer, Gilgamesh unleashed more powerful noble phantasms, but they were all absorbed into Akira's dimensional space. Finally, Akira decided to end the fight. Ultimate Secret Sword Shadow Pursuit. In an instant, Akira vanished from sight. Before Gilgamesh could react, he felt a searing pain in his arm. EA fell from his grasp as blood sprayed from the wound. Ultimate Secret Sword Shadow Pursuit was a technique born from Akira's mastery of the sword. It allowed him to move at speeds beyond comprehension, striking his enemy before they could even react. Gilgamesh, the King of Heroes, had been disarmed once again. Chapter 92, Second Awakening of Bloodline. Bazit's heartbeat. Gilgamesh quickly turned around to look behind him. Sure enough, he saw Akira standing there. It turned out that Akira had already slipped past him, but due to his incredible speed, Gilgamesh hadn't even noticed. Goldie, I'll make good use of your EA, Akira said with a smirk, casually tossing the legendary sword into his inventory space right in front of Gilgamesh. Being robbed of his treasures right before his eyes was something Gilgamesh could not tolerate. You! Gilgamesh barely managed to speak before a golden spear of light pierced through him. Before Saber's Excalibur could reach him, Akira's 12-winged fallen angel form took action, striking Gilgamesh with devastating force. Goodbye, King of Heroes, Akira declared, not bothering to waste any more words. He fired a rapid blast of light, obliterating Gilgamesh in an instant. Ding! Congratulations, host, for completing a villain check-in level, gold, check-in type, special event check-in event, noble phantasm theft, requirement, steal at least 100 noble phantasms from the King of Heroes. Note, since Gilgamesh has been defeated, the system will settle the rewards early. If you encounter other versions of the King of Heroes in different worlds, you can continue to accumulate rewards. Ding! Congratulations, host, for receiving the reward, Sword of Salvation. Sword of Salvation, as the name suggests, this divine sword possesses the power to save the world. The wielder of this sword gains the ability to form contracts with planetary and earth spirits, becoming a true savior. However, unlike the contracts formed by Rama, the contracts made through this sword are entirely under the host's control. Note, all noble phantasms stolen and stored in the inventory have been automatically transferred to the Sword of Salvation's armory. Even without forming a contract with a god, the host can still use powerful divine weapon barrages. Sword of Salvation? Akira muttered, examining the blade. The same Sword of Salvation wielded by the last king, Rama? But mine seems different. His sword was bound by contracts, making him a slave to its power. Mine, on the other hand, feels more like a boss's sword. In this contract, I'm the one in control. With Gilgamesh gone, it was time to wrap up the Holy Grail War. Akira turned his attention to Ryder, who was struggling against the invading dimensional creatures. Aguman, Akira called out. Understood, Akira. A golden barrier enveloped the world, sealing off the dimensional rift and trapping the invading creatures. Akira stepped forward, arriving in front of the heavily wounded Ryder. The King of Conquerors was in bad shape. His chariot was gone, his body was corroded by the dimensional creatures, and he was on the verge of death. Ryder's remaining soldiers, now fewer than 100, gathered around him, forming a protective circle. As Akira approached, they parted ways, allowing him to reach their king. If I'm not mistaken, you've come to deliver the final blow, Ryder said, coughing up blood as he struggled to stand. That's right, Akira replied calmly. Good. I admit I can't fight against these dimensional invaders. I've lost fair and square, Ryder said, nodding. But I have one last request. Akira already knew what Ryder wanted. He turned to Waver, who was standing nearby. "My king, it has been an honor to fight by your side once more," Waver said, his figure gradually fading as Akira sent him back to his original world. Seeing Waver disappear, Ryder smiled with relief. His only concern had been Waver's safety. As for himself and his loyal soldiers, they were already dead. Dying again meant little to them. "It's a shame," Ryder sighed. "This world has been severed, so I can't send my memories back to the main world. What an interesting experience, but my true self will never know of it." In this Holy Grail war, all the servants had gained power equivalent to their true selves, but their actual bodies had not been summoned. Only those who had absorbed Akira's special pieces had their true bodies brought forth. The others were merely servants borrowing their true selves' power. "Don't worry, Ryder," Akira said with a smirk. "If I ever get the chance to visit the Fate World again, I'll make sure to tell your true self about this." With that promise, Akira's chest ignited with sacred flames. Extreme flame, under the holy fire, Ryder and his soldiers slowly dissipated, their forms turning to ash. Meanwhile, in the Fate World, Saber had already defeated Berserker in just a few moves. In his heavily wounded state, Berserker's true form was revealed, a face Saber knew all too well. "Lancelot," Saber whispered, her voice filled with sorrow. "My king," Lancelot replied, his consciousness returning. He could sense that something about Saber had changed. "Lancelot, you were right," Saber said softly. "I didn't understand the hearts of men. Because of that, you and the others suffered greatly for this kingdom, and for me." Hearing these words, Lancelot's expression softened, as if he had finally found redemption. "It's all right, my king. Your forgiveness is more than I deserve. As for understanding hearts, you've certainly become more feminine. I wonder who it was that changed you." Lancelot's voice grew weaker, and his body began to fade. Before he could say more, an angry voice interrupted. "Damn it, Berserker! Get up!" Karayamatsu, desperate to win the Holy Grail and fulfill his wish of marrying Aoi, refused to give up. He poured the last of his life energy into Berserker, using his command seals to force him to fight. Saber glanced at Karaya. Akira had said it was fine to kill him, so she didn't hesitate. Wind King's hammer, with a single strike, Saber sent Karaya flying. His body crumpled against a wall, half of it reduced to a bloody pulp. "Goodbye, Lancelot," Saber said, tossing a fireball to finish him off. She didn't know why Akira had asked her to use the Holy Cross to deliver the final blow, but she didn't question it. As Saber ended Lancelot, Akira received another system notification. "Ding, congratulations, host, for completing a villain check-in level, gold, check-in event, the Great Demon King of the Holy Grail War, requirement, ensure all servants in the Holy Grail War are eliminated due to the host's actions. Congratulations, host, for receiving the reward, Second Awakening of High-Dimensional Succubus Bloodline. High-Dimensional Succubus Bloodline Second Awakening. This bloodline not only grants the ability to charm living beings but also the power to charm the world itself. After the Second Awakening, the host gains the ability to influence world events in their favor, similar to becoming a child of the world. In combat, the host gains enhanced elemental affinity and near-infinite energy replenishment. On the outskirts of Fuiuki City, a young woman with a cross pendant was chasing a man who also wore a cross. The man was Kairiko Tamine, a priest, while the woman was Bayzet, who had traveled far to seek revenge. Kairiko Tamine. "It's time to atone for your sins," Bayzet shouted, healing her wounds as she pursued him. Both of them possessed the power of the Hirokuchi lane, but Bayzet had the advantage thanks to the Holy Cross, a gift from Akira that granted her weakened versions of his abilities. "You won't escape." Bayzet activated the Holy Cross, trapping Kairai in a golden prison. Dragon's prison seal of the Dragon King. With Kairai immobilized, Bayzet charged her attack. Gaibolg, the crimson spear pierced through Kairai's heart, fulfilling its curse of certain death. As Kairai collapsed, the ground shook, and a golden light shot into the sky. The Holy Grail had manifested. "The Holy Grail," Kairai muttered, his voice fading. "To see it at the moment of my death. Is this God's mercy?" Before he could finish, sacred flames consumed his body, reducing him to ash. "You don't deserve redemption," Bayzet said coldly, turning her gaze to the Holy Grail. Standing before it was a young man. "Akira." "Akira," Bayzet whispered, touching the Holy Cross around her neck. Her usually stern expression softened, and a faint blush appeared on her cheeks. She had come to Fuiuki for revenge, but meeting Akira had been an unexpected twist. "I should repay him somehow," Bayzet thought, her heart racing. She wasn't sure if it was love, but she definitely felt something. And for now, that was enough. Chapter 93, Agumon's Human Form, Fusion with the Starseed Dragon King Soul. On the other side. Just as Kairiko Tamine had said. The Holy Grail had descended. Due to Irisveel's reincarnation, Akira had obtained the Lesser Grail early on. Of course, the Lesser Grail alone wasn't enough. To complete the quest of obtaining both the Greater and Lesser Grails, Akira ventured into the underground of Rita Temple, where he came into contact with the Celestial Grail. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the villain check-in level, Silver, check-in event, Holy Grail seizure, requirement, seize the Greater and Lesser Grails, gaining the ability to connect to the root, fixed mission reward, a tool to restore the foundation of the host's contracted beast, Aguman. The contracted beast Aguman will unlock a human form, wing as the system's notification echoed. The Greater Grail in Akira's hands radiated an unprecedented brilliance. Is this Grail, enhanced by the system, the evolution tool for Aguman? Akira could indeed sense the power of the root within it. However, when he first obtained it, he hadn't felt this power. After all, the Holy Grail only provided a means to reach the root, not the root itself. Aguman, this is for you. With this, you should be able to restore your foundation, Akira said as he tossed the Grail to Aguman, who was standing nearby. Huh? Oh, Aguman, caught off guard, fumbled a bit before catching the Grail. Akira, did you just say this can help me restore my foundation? Aguman widened her eyes in surprise. The first time she had seen the Grail, she hadn't felt anything special. But now, holding it in her hands, she could feel an undeniable attraction emanating from it. Originally, to restore her foundation, she would have needed to absorb several Longinus-level sacred gears. Yet, after the Grail passed through Akira's hands, it gained the ability to restore her foundation? As expected of a dimensional anomaly, his very existence defied logic. Around him, anything was possible. Thank you, Akira. Though Aguman had grown much stronger, her gratitude and loyalty to Akira remained unchanged. Alright, Aguman, no need for formalities between us. Just absorb it quickly. Before I do, can I make a request? Aguman continued. What request? Akira was slightly surprised. Akira. After fully restoring my foundation, I should be able to take on a human form. Once I gain my human form, could you call me by a different name? What name? Seiya. That's the name I've chosen for myself, I hope. You'll call me Seiya, Aguman replied softly. Alright, I understand, Seiya. Akira smiled helplessly. Truthfully, he had already known about this name from Aguman's data. Even if Aguman hadn't brought it up, he would have changed how he addressed her after she restored her foundation. After all, calling a humanoid being Aguman would be far too strange. Thank you, Akira. Aguman gave Akira a deep look before plunging her hand into the Grail. The metallic Grail transformed into flowing golden liquid, gradually enveloping Aguman's body. Within seconds, all that remained in front of Akira was a large golden cocoon. Thump thump. Thump. The sound of a heartbeat echoed continuously. With each beat, the sacred aura emanating from the golden cocoon grew stronger. While Aguman was evolving, Akira opened the system interface to submit the world conquest mission. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the villain check-in level, Rainbow, check-in event. World Conquest, requirement, gather enough fate energy to completely conquer this world, current progress, 110%, Holy Grail seizure, 20%, protagonist fate energy seized, Garrett Suguamiya, 10%, heroine fate energy seized, Rin Tasaka, 10%, Sakura Matu, 10%, Ilya, 10%, Saber, 10%, etc. Remaining fate energy collection targets, Bazit, 2.5%, Karin, 2.5%, etc. Total percentage, 120%, exceeding 100%, ding. Congratulations to the host for conquering the Fate World, congratulations to the host for obtaining the reward, Starseed Dragon King Soul, with a simulated star creation diagram version, Starseed Dragon King Soul, a pure-blooded dragon. The Star Lord of Taisui. The unconscious soul of the Starseed Dragon King possesses not only immense power as a pure-blooded dragon and star spirit but also the strongest sealing ability in the form of the simulated star creation diagram virtual star Taisui. Taisui, a deity in Taoist belief, governs the fortunes and misfortunes of the mortal world for a year. The original virtual star Taisui could seal the strongest species, including gods, while having the strength of all other races. Only dragon species were immune to its effects. The system-enhanced virtual star Taisui retains the ability to seal all non-dragon entities and can also seal entire worlds. Any conquered world can be sealed within the Dragon Soul's artifact. The more worlds sealed, the stronger the Starseed Dragon King's soul becomes. Ding. Detected a compatible reward for fusion. Would the host like to proceed? Fusion target, Red and White Dragon Dance and Starseed Dragon King Soul, fusion successful, boom. As the fusion completed, the entire severed world cluster trembled violently. Roar. Outside the world's barrier, In the dimensional sea, the massive phantom of a star dragon appeared. As the phantom of the Star Sea Dragon King passed through, the entire Fate World cluster vanished from the dimensional rift. The external disturbance woke Ceia. The golden cocoon rapidly contracted before shattering. A golden-haired, golden-eyed girl emerged from the cocoon. Before she even fully stepped out, her voice reached Akira's ears. Akira. The world has undergone a strange change. Yeah, I know. The change was caused by me. The severed world cluster is now under my control, Akira replied calmly. Ah. Oh, I see, Ceia nodded, still a bit confused. Well, if it was Akira's doing, then it was all normal. After all, Akira had the ability to expel world consciousness, so adding the ability to conquer worlds wasn't too far-fetched. Aguman. No. Ceia. You. Akira examined the golden-haired girl before him. Her golden hair and golden eyes were mesmerizing, with a faint golden cross visible within her pupils. Her long hair cascaded over a golden outfit that resembled a mix of a mage's robe and armor, clinging to her radiant skin. It was a sight that could easily captivate anyone. However, Akira wasn't one to be easily swayed by appearances. In fact, it was Ceia who found herself drawn to him. Akira. Have you changed a bit? Ceia glanced at him before quickly looking away. Yeah, my bloodline has evolved a bit further, Akira admitted. To be precise, his high-dimensional succubus bloodline had evolved further. His high-dimensional Leviathan bloodline hadn't yet completed its evolution. Looking at the breathtakingly beautiful Ceia, Akira casually threw out an appraisal. Name, Ceia, race, fantasy dragon type data beast, level 285, high-tier super devil, attribute evaluation, strength, S+, speed, S+, magic, S+, physical defense, S+, magic proficiency, SS, innate affinity for both martial and magical arts, reaching world-class levels, bloodline abilities, SS, 1. Data bloodline, can absorb data to strengthen itself. Up to a certain stage, it can grow stronger simply by obtaining the right data. 2. Sacred bloodline, possesses immense holy attributes, capable of defeating even the original Lucifer once fully matured. 3. Fantasy crystal, condenses the power of fantasy and dreams from 2 world clusters, capable of turning fantasy into reality. Overall evaluation, S+ tier super devil. Summary, born from the fusion of 2 massive world clusters, fueled by the power of fantasy from countless realms, and catalyzed by a high-dimensional existence, this data-type beast blurs the line between fantasy and reality, carving out a new possibility in a doomed future. Impressive. Akira nodded in satisfaction as he looked at Ceia's overwhelmingly powerful stats. An S+ tier super devil meant she could now contend with gods. At the very least, she could handle a low-tier god without issue. While Akira was observing her, Ceia shyly smoothed her golden hair. Oh. Akira, I almost forgot, there's one more thing. What is it? It's about my evolution materials. Ceia's face turned slightly red. This wasn't out of shyness but rather embarrassment. Because of my evolution, the materials I extorted from Azazel might not be enough anymore. Ceia poked her fingers together nervously. Not enough? How much more do you need? About 99% more. As she said this, Ceia's ears turned bright red. She remembered the time when she had devoured a massive amount of data, leaving Akira's wallet completely drained. Back then, Akira had just discovered her ability to grow stronger by purifying and absorbing data. Ceia clasped her hands together and closed her eyes, making a solemn promise. Akira, I'll handle my evolution materials myself. Since I've already infiltrated the fallen angels through your avatar, I'll work hard to research sacred gears and earn money. Akira couldn't help but laugh at her determination. He marveled at how diligent a Digimon had to be to gather its own evolution materials. If he really let Ceia handle it all herself, he'd feel like a terrible partner. Don't worry, Ceia. With the resources from selling Phoenix blood, even 100 times the materials won't be a problem. Ceia. Listen carefully to what I'm about to say. Akira's expression turned serious. Okay. I'm listening, Ceia nodded earnestly. Good. Ceia, you need to remember that you are a being with the power to transcend worlds, my contracted sacred beast. Your focus should be on honing your skills and developing your abilities, not worrying about trivial matters like money. If you're troubled by such things, then it's my failure as your partner. Do you understand? Yes, I'll work hard. Ceia nodded vigorously before stepping closer to Akira and lowering her head slightly. Akira was familiar with this gesture. Every time Ceia did this, he responded the same way. Alright, keep up the good work, Ceia. With a smile, Akira reached out and gently patted her soft, golden hair. Feeling the warmth of his hand, Ceia couldn't help but close her eyes in contentment. This feeling was something Cia had missed and cherished deeply. After obtaining the Holy Grail, Akira began wrapping up loose ends in the Fate world. While he had already secured the major rewards, he didn't want to waste the smaller ones. The appearance of the Grail had drawn the attention of many. However, Akira had no intention of dealing with them. The world was already under his control, and minor issues weren't worth his time. If necessary, a mass memory alteration would suffice. After all, brainwashing was far more effective than something like a gas explosion. Speaking of brainwashing, Akira recalled something else. By the way, he muttered. When I saved Shirley earlier, I obtained a trace of faith energy from that island. Now that I have several world clusters under my control, should I start gathering faith in these worlds? As Akira pondered this, he noticed that many had witnessed the descent of the Holy Grail. Among them was Ayako Mitsuzuri. Living in the Innsburn Castle, Ayako had seen the beam of light that pierced through Fuyuki City. Using her sacred cross to enhance her vision, she tried to see what was happening. What she saw was the Holy Grail, enhanced by the system, in real time. Perhaps due to her appearance, upon seeing the enhanced Grail, she felt something and instinctively covered her eyes. When she opened them again, the world seemed different. Chapter 94, Epilogue on the Other Side. Akira. From a distance, Akira heard a familiar voice calling out to him. Turning around, he saw a young woman with rose-red hair dressed in a suit. Bayzit, Akira called out her name. Half a minute later, Bayzit finally arrived at the scene. She had seen the Holy Grail and Akira's figure when she killed Kairiko Tomine, and it had taken her some time to get here. Akira, thanks to your cross, I finally avenged myself against Kairiko Tomine, Bayzit said excitedly as she approached him. This debt of gratitude is something I can never repay. Though my strength is insignificant, my family holds some influence in Ireland. If there's anything you need help with, I'll do everything in my power to assist you. Bayzit knew Akira was incredibly strong, and she felt she didn't have the qualifications to help him. But qualifications aside, her gratitude was genuine, and she couldn't just abandon the idea of repaying him because it seemed difficult. A place where I need your help, huh? Akira rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Actually, there is something you can help me with right now. Alright, what do you need? I'll do it without hesitation, Bayzit replied, her voice filled with excitement. If there was something she could help with, it gave her a reason to stay close to Akira. Before we talk about that, how about we grab a meal first? Akira suggested. Huh? A meal? Bayzit tilted her head in confusion. Yeah, a meal. You said today is a good day, right? If it's a good day, then we should celebrate with a meal. Akira insisted that, no matter what, they should eat first. Besides, it was already mealtime. Whether it was saving the world or destroying it, life always came back to the basics. A meal? Here in Fuyuki? Sure, I'll treat you. Consider it a small part of my repayment. Bayzit thought the idea of eating together was perfect. After all, restaurants had restrooms. She had just finished chasing down Kairiko Tomine, and her face was probably covered in dust. She needed to freshen up and touch up her makeup. At the restaurant, Bayzit pulled out the expensive lipstick and makeup set she had bought specifically before flying to Japan. Normally, she didn't wear makeup, but this time, she had prepared carefully. She had come to Japan not only to investigate the Holy Grail War from 10 years ago but also in the hopes of meeting Akira again. Women dress up for those they admire. After watching countless videos of Akira, Bayzit had vaguely sensed through the Holy Cross that he might be in Fuyuki City. It was this hope that had driven her to come here. Perfect? Bayzit looked at her reflection in the mirror, her lips now a rich, vibrant red. She smiled in satisfaction. Though she rarely wore makeup, the results were impressive. So this is Japanese cuisine? It's quite an experience, Bayzit remarked as she brought the food to her mouth. However, she also felt a bit awkward. Eating with lipstick on was a new challenge for her. But Bayzit wasn't the type to give up easily. Drawing on the martial arts she had inherited from Kuchi Lane, she managed to perform the miracle of eating without smudging her lipstick. It was an Irish miracle. A victory of martial arts. And, most importantly, a victory for her as a woman. By the way, after we eat, how about we catch a movie? And after that, we can watch the sunset, Akira suggested as the meal came to an end. A movie? But isn't that something couples usually do? Bayzit's face turned red. True, we're not a couple, Akira replied. Then why are we going to watch a movie? Before Bayzit could finish, Akira interrupted her. Neither of us has confessed our feelings, so how can we be considered a couple? That said, personally, I do like you, Bayzit. Akira wiped his mouth and smiled. Like me? Bayzit swallowed hard, her lips curling into a smile. It was true, it was too early for confessions. Akira's admission that he liked her was enough for now. Of course, Akira must like her. Otherwise, why would he have come to Ireland to find her and leave her the Holy Cross as a token of affection? Ahem. Actually, I have feelings for you too, Akira. Since I'm interested in that movie, let's go watch it. Bayzet's face was slightly red as she spoke these half-truths. In reality, she wasn't interested in the movie at all. What she was interested in was Akira, the person who would be watching it with her. Seeing Bayzet agree, Akira took her hand and led her toward the cinema. If he wasn't busy with missions or tasks, Akira was more than happy to spend time with various girls. It was a win-win. He could enjoy the company of lovely girls while also growing stronger. Coincidentally, Akira's high-dimensional succubus bloodline had awakened for the second time, and he wanted to test its enhanced abilities. From the looks of it, the bloodline's effects were remarkable. Even a strong-willed and prideful woman like Bayzet showed her softer, more girlish side when around him. The test results showed that the high-dimensional succubus bloodline had not only improved his charm in the world of seduction but also enhanced his ability to attract women in general. Bayzet felt the warmth of Akira's hand and instinctively let out a soft "hm." Once she realized Akira was holding her hand, she gripped his hand back, interlocking their fingers. And so, Bayzet and Akira arrived at the cinema. Throughout the entire time, Bayzet never let go of his hand. She loved the feeling of her heart racing as they held hands. It was a new and exciting sensation, warm and tingly, something she couldn't get enough of. In the dimly lit cinema, Bayzet felt Akira's hands envelop hers. Huh? Just as she was about to ask what was going on, Akira guided her hand to another place. Huh? What's this? Feeling the heat in her hand, Bayzet's ears turned bright red. How could Akira do this? In a movie theater. Before Bayzet could say anything, she felt a warm breath near her ear. The heat, carrying Akira's scent, sent a shiver down her spine. A wave of warmth surged through her body, leaving her weak and unable to resist. Don't worry, Bayzet. I've hypnotized everyone here. But even so, we can't. Bayzet's rose-colored eyes were filled with longing. Who told me I like you so much, Bayzet? Bayzet. You'll help me, won't you? Help you? With what? Bayzet asked, her lips trembling slightly. With this. Akira continued to whisper softly into her ear. Okay. I understand. Bayzet closed her eyes and slowly extended her hand. She didn't know why she was being so bold. All she knew was that she couldn't refuse Akira. And, deep down, she wanted this too. Bayzet agreed to Akira's request. After that, time seemed to stand still. Until Akira whispered in her ear again, by the way, Bayzet, I remember you usually wear white gloves. If you'd like, you can wear them now. Either one glove or both, I think either would work. A few seconds later, Bayzet made her choice. She decided to wear one glove and leave the other hand bare. What happened after that was a blur for Bayzet. All she remembered was that the sunset in Fuyuki City was breathtaking. And under that sunset, Akira kissed her, and she held him tightly, never wanting to let go. Ding! Detected energy absorption. High-dimensional succubus bloodline activated, energy absorption target, Bayzet, ding. Energy absorption successful, host level increased by 3. Current level, 233, mid-tier Demon King. The next day, Bayzet woke up groggily. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw Akira's face, which made her heart race. For some reason, Akira seemed even more charming than before. If she had to describe him, she would say he was a youth who combined divinity and demonic allure. As Bayzet watched, Akira opened his eyes. Good morning? Akira smiled as he met Bayzet's gaze. Isn't his way of saying good morning a bit too forward? Bayzet felt Akira's movements and couldn't help but blush. So, Bayzet, you want to change the way we greet each other? Of course. Bayzet bit her lip lightly. Greetings should be mutual. It's not fair if only you greet me and I don't return the favor. Bayzet had been the one being ridden for a while now. It was time for her to take the reins. In Italy, a young woman with the surname Claudia was tending to the wounded. She had silver hair and golden eyes, but the most striking feature was the white eye patch covering one eye. The silver-haired girl held a holy cross and began to pray. Soon, a green light emanated from the cross, healing the wounds of the injured man before her. Thank you. Thank you, Lady Claudia. The man, whose wounds had been corroded by a sea demon, wept tears of gratitude as his injuries healed. Don't thank me. Thank Akira, Claudia said with a faint smile. Normally, she wouldn't even be able to smile. As an albino, her immune system was weak, and even minor injuries could be life-threatening. But after meeting a certain boy in her childhood, everything had changed. With the Holy Cross, she gained the ability to heal. Though she still got hurt, her life was no longer in constant danger. Not only that, But Claudia could also feel her physical strength increasing. Claudia had always been grateful to the boy who saved her from her tragic fate. His name was Akira, and he had been on her mind for over a decade. Just yesterday, she had seen him again. Akira had given her an even stronger holy cross and promised to meet her again in a few days. Since then, Claudia had been eagerly awaiting their reunion. Creak as if answering her thoughts, the door to the shelter opened, and a breathtakingly handsome young man walked in. "Claudia, I've come to see you," Akira said softly, looking at the girl who resembled Rei Inami. "Akira. Is that you? Then. Who is she?" Claudia noticed the silver-haired girl standing beside Akira. The girl had an icy expression, but what stood out most was how much she resembled Claudia. "Her? She's a novice priestess who's been training with me recently," Akira explained with a smile. "Me? I'm Karen. Nice to meet you, Lady Claudia." Karen smiled and curtsied, her black stockings adding to her allure. As Claudia had guessed, Karen was not only similar in appearance but also closely related to her. In the original timeline, Claudia was Kiriko Tomin's wife and Karen's mother. But due to Akira's interference, Kirai had married a distant relative of Claudia's, and Karen was born from that union. In the original timeline, Claudia had committed suicide to save Kirai from his emotional emptiness, and Karen had inherited her spirit torture physique, becoming an exorcist who used her body to fight demons. But now, both Claudia and Karen had been given a new lease on life. Chapter 96, The Gathering of the Devil Princesses, Konko's Way of Repayment. Ryaz, didn't I tell you that Akira went out for training? Sona replied. But who goes out for training and still shows up at school from time to time? Ryaz countered. She knew that Akira's appearances had become less frequent, but he wasn't completely unreachable. Ryaz, instead of asking me, wouldn't it be better to ask Akira directly? Fine, I'll have Konko pass him a message. Ryaz could tell that Sona wasn't willing to share any information with her. In truth, Ryaz wasn't really expecting to get any answers from Sona about Akira. She was simply testing the waters, trying to see if there was still something between Sona and Akira. From the results of her probing, Sona remained tight-lipped, revealing nothing unusual about her relationship with Akira. So, Ryaz decided to drop the matter. Whether Sona truly had nothing going on with Akira or was deliberately hiding something, Ryaz knew she wouldn't get any information out of her if Sona didn't want to share. Sona, on the other hand, was well aware of Ryaz's intentions. However, she couldn't reveal too much to Ryaz without consulting Akira first. After all, Ryaz wasn't yet considered one of their own. Not only had she not been absorbed into their group, but her engagement to Akira was also based on political interests. Such a Ryaz was someone Sona couldn't fully trust. Then I'll take my leave now, Ryaz. You can continue your discussion with Sekvara-sama. With that, Sona and Tsubaki Shinra disappeared into a teleportation circle. Ryaz's gaze lingered on the spot where the circle had been. There was still one big question on her mind: when had Sona and Sekvara become so close that they were sharing an office? Weren't they worried about leaking confidential information? Even if Sona was handling school matters, which shouldn't be a secret from Sekvara, what about Sekvara herself? Didn't she fear that information about the House of Baal might leak? Setting aside her doubts for now, Ryaz turned her attention back to Sekvara and resumed their discussion. Sekvara, I think these spirit medicines would be the most suitable. As the head of the House of Baal, you've dealt with many things. Do you have any better suggestions? Although Sekvara was only the acting head, Ryaz wasn't foolish enough to address her as such. That would be far too tactless. Well, I think these spirit medicines might be more useful for you, Ryaz. Given your destruction magic, which is different from ordinary devils, you could try some with stronger effects. Since your goal is to stabilize your foundation and consolidate your power, as long as the medicine isn't the type that forcibly boosts your power, a stronger spirit medicine for foundation building shouldn't be harmful to you. Sekvara quite liked Ryaz as a client. In fact, not just Sekvara, but many others appreciated Ryaz's generous spending. If it hadn't been for Ryaz providing a year's worth of magical beast data, Akira might have had to wait another 3 months to evolve a Guman without using any cheats. Alright, thank you, Sekvara. I'll consider it carefully. Ryaz accepted the list from Sekvara and began verifying the information through other channels. Meanwhile, in Akira's world, the Fate universe. A few days ago, after obtaining the Holy Grail, Akira had used the dragon soul of the Star Sea Dragon King to take the Fate world with him. During this time, Akira had been dividing his attention between the Fate world and matters in the DxD world. Last night, Akira had gone out for a late-night motorcycle ride with Taiga Fujimura and only returned in the early hours of the morning. Now, it was already the evening of the next day. Due to Akira's habits, he was still resting within Taiga's body. Sensing some movement, Akira slowly opened his eyes to find Taiga admiring his sleeping face. If Akira had to guess, Taiga had been watching him since she woke up. Taiga smiled instinctively when she saw Akira wake up, but then her eyes rolled back slightly as she reacted to his presence. The younger, teenage version of Taiga Fujimura, with her long hair and toned physique, exuded a youthful charm that Akira found far more appealing than her older, short-haired self. After a moment, Taiga finally recovered and shot Akira a playful glare. However, Akira's reaction had piqued her interest. So, without much thought, the young Taiga leaned in close to Akira's ear and whispered, "Akira, I'm hungry. The taste of dimensional energy is quite nice. What do you think? Should we consume it internally or apply it externally?" Faced with Taiga's invitation, Akira replied, "I think we can do both, consume it internally and apply it externally. By the way, I've been really into pineapples lately. They add a nice flavor." Pineapples, huh? The young Taiga recalled the information about pineapples. Last night, she had indeed caught a whiff of that fresh, fruity scent. "Whether it's pineapples or something else, I'm hungry. As my fiancé, isn't it your duty to satisfy your fiancé's needs?" Taiga interlocked her fingers with Akira's and sat on his lap. The younger version of Taiga, acting spoiled like this, had a unique charm. Last night, after several days of dating, Taiga had finally accepted Akira as her fiancé. There was no helping it, he had apparently set his sights on her over a decade ago, even before she was born, by arranging a marriage contract with her parents. It was all too cunning. Ding, detecting the acquisition of fate energy. High-dimensional succubus bloodline activated, fate energy acquisition target Taiga Fujimura, ding. Fate energy acquisition successful, host level increased by 3. Current level, 236, high-class devil. During the second round, Akira suddenly heard a cute, lily-like voice in his ear. "Akira-sama, Raya-sama is looking for you. Are you available now?" The voice belonged to Konkatsuju, who was contacting Akira through their shared connection as part of his peerage. "Ryaz is looking for me? Now. I'm a bit busy, but I can make some time if it's urgent. Is it something serious?" Akira was indeed occupied at the moment. The second round was taking place on Taiga's motorcycle. On a deserted highway late at night, Akira was riding the heavy metal bike at breakneck speed. Taiga, wearing a tight riding suit, sat in front of him, her long hair flowing in the wind as her eyes rolled back, nearly collapsing onto the bike's front cover. This novel experience was something Akira wasn't willing to interrupt unless Ryaz was in a life-or-death situation. "It's not that urgent, but Ryaz-sama mentioned that it's time for you to fulfill your contract. She hopes you can come to the old school building by noon tomorrow, fulfill the contract." "So? Riser has come knocking? Alright, I understand. Konko, tell Ryaz I'll be there on time tomorrow." "Understood, Akira-sama. I'll relay the message to Ryaz-sama," Konko nodded. "By the way, Konko, did you forget something?" Akira reminded her. "What did I forget?" Konko was puzzled. "Didn't we agree that you'd call me Akira-senpai instead of Akira-sama? I prefer being called senpai by cute girls like you." This wasn't just for Konko. Akira also enjoyed having Rin Tasaka and Sakurama to call him senpai. With Sakura, it was to savor her sweet voice, while with Rin, it was purely to see her tsundere reactions. "Alright, I understand. Akira-sen." "Akira-senpai," Konko finally managed to stutter out a word. "Good, keep it up. I'm looking forward to your future performance, Konko-chan." As a reward for Konko calling him senpai, Akira also used a term of endearment for her. "Yes, Akira-senpai. I'll work hard to gain the strength to defeat my sister soon." Konko's response was a bit off. While Akira had asked her to work on calling him senpai, Konko instead talked about training harder. Back in the DxD world, after ending the communication with Akira, Konko let out a long sigh. Phew. Feeling the powerful immortal energy within her body, Konko's gaze was filled with confusion. Konko had now ascended to the rank of a high-class devil, and a high tier 1 at that. She was now close to reaching the level of her sister, Kuroka, who was at the peak of the high-class devil rank. High-class devil. The fact that I've gained the strength to face my sister is all thanks to Akira-senpai. Such a great debt. How can I ever repay it? Konko thought back to a few days ago. A few days prior, Akira's mutation piece had advanced to the second stage, unlocking its full potential and significantly strengthening his peerage. To help those without pieces and to guide those who had experienced a sudden increase in power, Akira had returned to the DxD world for a brief period. During that time, Akira had given pieces to many, including Sekvera and Sona. The advanced mutation pieces were even more discreet and couldn't be detected. He had also provided guidance to Asia and others. Konko was one of those who received guidance. After Akira helped her refine her meridians and adjust her body, Konko, who had already reached the mid-tier high-class devil rank, advanced to the high-tier high-class devil rank. It was during that time that Konko discovered Akira's proficiency in immortal energy, something even she, as a Nekozu, couldn't match. His top-tier immortal energy massage techniques had left Konko utterly captivated. Combined with the further evolution of Akira's high-dimensional succubus bloodline, Konko's affection towards him had increased significantly. With her strength now at a level where she no longer feared her sister suddenly appearing to kidnap her or harm those around her, Konko's focus shifted to a more personal matter. Akira-senpai had done so much for her. How could she ever repay him? Perhaps by offering herself? Such a great debt could only be repaid by giving herself to him. The fact that Akira preferred being called senpai instead of sama suggested that he might have feelings for her, right? But what if her flat chest didn't interest him? What if she confessed, only for Akira-senpai to tell her that he was just being kind and didn't have any romantic feelings for her? This internal conflict was why Konko had been reluctant to call Akira-senpai. Every time she did, it only deepened her confusion. Wait, Konko's golden eyes narrowed as she thought of a solution. My sister has a great figure, right? Since we're twins, my body shouldn't be limited to this flat chest. I've heard there are immortal techniques that can enhance physical development. If I use those, maybe I can achieve a figure as perfect as Ryaz-senpai's. Konko had found a new goal. Now, she had another reason to grow stronger. She would defeat her sister Kiroka and force her to reveal the secret to improving her figure. With that decided, it's time to train. Konko sat cross-legged, filled with determination to defeat her sister and obtain the secret to enhancing her figure. She began her training in earnest. Chapter 97, Underworld Turmoil, Akira's second childhood fiancé. The next day, at noon. The old school building. Ryaz had asked Akeno to prepare tea early in the morning. Not just 2 cups, but a full 4. This was because Ryaz wasn't meeting just one guest of equal status, but 3. As the time arrived, the red carpet began to glow with a mysterious light. In the center of the golden teleportation circle was the majestic emblem of a phoenix. The arrivals were none other than the direct descendants of the phoenix family. Whoosh! 2 tall figures and one shorter one emerged from the circle. Yo Ryaz, long time no see. The air in the human world is still as murky as ever, said the golden-haired man, the first to speak among the 3. Lady Ryaz, thank you for waiting. Please forgive my foolish brother's lack of manners. He didn't mean to imply that your place is unclean, he just doesn't like the human world in general. The golden-haired girl coldly glanced at her brother and offered an apology with a smile. The last of the trio was a mature woman with long purple-red hair. She was the most reserved and respectful of the 3. Lady Ryaz, greetings. After saying this, the mature woman, Yubeluna, stood behind Ravel. As Ravel's queen, it was her duty to serve by her king's side during important discussions. On Ryaz's side, Akeno also stood behind her king, just as Yubeluna did. Their eyes briefly met but quickly averted, avoiding any prolonged contact. As Riser and Ravel took their seats, only one seat remained empty. Everyone present knew exactly who that seat was reserved for. That seat was for the heir of the Leviathan bloodline, Akira Leviathan. In the past, Riser would have scoffed and dismissed Akira, moving straight to business. But now, after Akira and his mechanical Digimon had made their presence known, no one could afford to ignore him anymore. Lady Ryaz, there are still 10 minutes before the agreed time, Akeno said with a smile. Since Akira-sama hasn't arrived yet, why don't you tell us some interesting stories about him at school? Me? Tell you about Akira? Ryaz's expression turned slightly complicated. Ravel, if I recall correctly, you and Akira are quite close, aren't you? You must have gathered some information about him privately, right? Why ask me? As she said this, even Ryaz didn't notice the faint hint of jealousy in her voice. This subtle jealousy elicited different reactions from those present. Riser snorted coldly, Ravel maintained her smile, Akeno grinned happily, and Yubeluna remained expressionless. Ravel, however, picked up on Ryaz's jealousy. She understood that Ryaz was feeling threatened by her. After all, if she were in Ryaz's shoes, she would also feel hostile toward her fiancé's childhood friend. Lady Ryaz is right. I have indeed been collecting information about Akira-sama, Ravel admitted. But aside from public information, I'm also very curious about Akira-sama's school life. Is it true that he ranks first at Kwa Academy?